are back. We are back for part two of the interview with Mr. Alexandre. Yesterday was very emotional, very moving, and very powerful. If you have not watched the first part of the interview, I highly recommend you that after this interview that you watch part one because it was amazing. It was, oh my gosh, I got so many feedbacks, and it was really life changing. Not even for Rwandan, just Rwandan, even Americans were blessed by it. Even other people from other countries were blessed by it. So I encourage you to do that. Without further ado, I'm going to go to my guests and I want to introduce them. We have Mr. Omis Dasnaishime, who is an author of two books. I had a previous interview with him where he shared his story as a genocide survivor and how he grew up and watching the atrocities and the hatred that had happened before even 1994. And then we have Mr. Alexandre Karamage, who is in process of finishing his autobiography that I cannot wait to read. So I'm excited for that. But before we start the interview with Mr. Alexandre, I want to give a little moment with Mr. Omisdas to take us back because yesterday I realized that there are some things that I did not that we did not go through during his interview, and that he mentioned in his book Heritage from Father because he was born in 1963, right? Navuye 1963, 1963 cyangwa 1960.
63, 63.
Yes. So he was born in 1963, but his father was a genocide survivor of the genocide against the Tutsis of 1959. And I want him to share the tragic memories that his father shared with him of how he survived the killing of 1959. And I want him to share that part before we go with Mr. Alexander because many people in my generation and even many people I believe even like with other than my generation are more focused on talking about the genocide of 1994, which is true because in 1994 it became like completely like wild, where they killed children, women, they killed everybody. They just wanted to wipe us out. But also in 1959, there are people that were killed like very violently, and I would like for us to take some time to also talk about that because Mr. Omisdas and Mr. Alexandre are a consequence. They faced the consequence of that genocide. Mr. Alexandre grew up without his father at home because his father was chased out of Rwanda because just because he was Tutsi, he did not kill anybody, he didn't steal anything. Mr. Omisdas' father was almost killed because of being Tutsi. So, Mr. Omisdas, I would like to ask you to yes, I can see. I don't know what. Okay, let me just put you on.
Ah,
Oh, you can
euh,
you show it again because I didn't see. Can you show it again?
euh, c'est au chapitre 2, j'ai écrit mon père,
My
my
father
father,
saved by his brothers in faith. So it's chapter 2 of his book,
yeah,
Heritage from Father. So,
yeah.
so that's what he wants to say. But I want you to say it. Can you please share it in French and then I will translate it in English, please?
Ok. Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup pour ce temps que vous me donnez pour compléter Alexandre, parce que ce n'est pas seulement pour montrer que tous les Tutsis étaient menacés depuis 1959. Dans mon livre Heritage from Father, j'ai écrit comment mon père disons, comment était survivant dans cette période de 1959. En fait, vous voyez, comme Alexandre nous a dit hier, hein, il y avait des groupes des Hutus, des extrémistes Hutus, qui maltraitaient les Tutsis, qui les chassaient, qui les tuaient depuis 1959. Alors, un jour, ils sont venus chez nous, donc ils visaient les chefs de famille, les chefs de ménage, les hommes, surtout ils visaient les hommes. Alors, ils sont venus chez nous, comme mon père me le disait, un groupe de jeunes autour des hommes, avec des lances, avec des machettes, donc ils voulaient le tuer. Mon père, comme il était, dans cette époque, il était jeune, il a couru et son groupe est allé derrière lui pour le tuer. À un moment donné, il s'est assis, il pensait que c'était fini, mais il y avait un autre groupe qui était dirigé par ses amis, qui étaient chrétiens comme lui. Ils se sont rencontrés à l'église. Oh, oh,
I need to trans- I need
j'ai
to
oublié que vous avez.
translate.
Oui, 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 j'ai oublié.
Okay, so he started by sharing how during the 1959 event, they were people were coming to houses, like from house to house, to look for male to kill them. And there were people that were coming that actually came to his father's house, because at that time I don't think he was. Vous parlez de 1959, right? Now,
1959, yeah.
okay, so he's sharing what his father told him, because he was born in 1963. So he's sharing about what his father told him, that this group of people came to their house, to his father's house, to look for him, to kill him.
Oui.
Ok, so continue, je vais traduire en même temps pour que
D'accord. Et puis, il a été sauvé avec l'autre groupe qui était dirigé par ses amis chrétiens. Ils se rencontraient à l'église.
So there were two groups. There was a group that were going from house to house to kill the Tutsis, and there was another group of Christian people that actually were also Hutus, but they were also going from house to house. But those one, that second group actually saved him, because they were going to the same church.
Yes. Et puis, quand il a été sauvé, mais sa maison était brûlée, ses vaches étaient tuées, et
So
puis les champs de
he
bananes
was
aussi.
saved. They didn't kill him, but they burned his house. They killed his cows. They took away all his belongings. So basically, they left him with nothing.
Oui, et puis il a pris sa famille, ils sont allés se réfugier à l'église. Ils sont allés se réfugier à l'église.
So he took his family, and then they went to hide at the church, in the church.
Oui, il y avait beaucoup de réfugiés à l'église. Et puis,
there were many refugees that were also hidden in the church where he went to hide.
Et à un moment donné, les dirigeants venaient avec les listes déjà qui devaient quitter le Rwanda.
So after some time, we are talking about 1959. For anybody joining us, this is not 1994. This is 1959. So after a little while, there was somebody who came with a list of people that needed to immediately be chased out of Rwanda.
Voilà. Comme mon père avait ses amis qui étaient très influents.
So his father was friends with people that were very influential in that time.
Alors, il était, on l'a laissé au Rwanda. On l'a dit de retourner chez lui.
So because he was friends with people that were influential at that time and that were Hutus, they actually favored him and told him not to leave the country but go back to his house.
Voilà. Mais pourquoi ils ont arrêté de chasser les Tutsis pendant cette période? On a crié, j'ai mentionné dans mon livre, la Radio Vatican, il y avait un philosophe qui s'appelle Rousseau qui a dit non, c'était un génocide au Rwanda. On parlait de génocide. Et puis, alors le président de la République qui était Kayibanda, il a dit non, il a arrêté les massacres.
Okay, so the reason why the genocide of 1959 actually stopped is because there was a priest in the Vatican that actually posted, or I think said something in the radio on TV, and then it echoed everywhere. And the president, the Rwandan president at that time, President Kayibanda, right? Kayibanda,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oui, oui.
President Kayibanda at that time, he realized that now the whole world knew what was happening in Rwanda, so he decided to stop the genocide.
Mais juste les massacres se sont arrêtés en 1964. Dans cette période,
So,
1959,
so the killings actually did not stop in 1959. So the killing went on until 1964.
ce qui était étrange, c'est que il y avait l'impunité. Celui qui avait tué le Tutsi, il n'était pas puni. C'était l'impunité totale.
So what was mostly striking was the fact that anybody who was killing a Tutsi was not punished. Actually, they were rewarded for the killings.
Mais juste en 1963, l'année de ma naissance, on a parlé du génocide. Parce qu'à Gikongoro, on avait tué beaucoup de Tutsis.
So in 1963, when he was born, that's when they actually decreed that there was a genocide in Rwanda, the genocide against Tutsis in Rwanda. That's when they acknowledged that it truly happened. There was a genocide that truly happened in Rwanda in 1959.
Alors, différents journalistes et chercheurs ont parlé sur cette situation au Rwanda, qu'il y avait vraiment des tueries systématiques.
So after that, now journalists and people like and researchers now started actually talking more in depth about the genocide. So they started doing research and they started actually now talking more about the genocide that had happened. But killing were ongoing until 1964.
Oui. Alors, c'était bien connu. Le problème, il y avait cette impunité au point qu'en 1968, au Bugesera, on a tué encore les Tutsis.
So because there was
1968.
nobody was being punished for the killing, so the killing continued to go until 1968, when there were actually some more killings in Bugesera, in a place called Bugesera in Rwanda. So meaning the killing went from 1959 to 1968.
Yes. Et puis, en 1973 aussi, on a tué encore les Tutsis. On a chassé les
Oh my
étudiants
God!
Tutsis.
So the killing went from 1959 to 1968, where there was a massive killing in Bugesera. Then in 1973, there was another big, massive killing of Tutsis. I wonder what, like, God was just multiplying us. How come we didn't disappear? Like, we didn't just vanish. It's just God.
Pardon?
Je me demande comment est-ce que, avec toutes
Oui.
ces tueries, ils n'ont pas pu tuer tous. Ils n'ont pas pu tuer nos pères tous. Parce que s'ils ont tué depuis 1959, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, jusqu'en 73, ça fait très longtemps qu'ils avaient commencé à tuer. C'est une question que je me pose. Leur désir, c'était vraiment de nous exterminer complètement.
Non, voilà, on n'exterminait pas complètement parce que, voilà, on faisait petit à petit, mais régulièrement. Parce qu'on ne voulait pas que le monde.
So the genocide, the first genocide of 1959 was actually a slow genocide. So they were not actually killing like extremely like how they did it in 1994, where they literally in 100 days they killed over like 2 million people. So in that time they were killing slowly. They were killing like from houses to houses. So they were killing like slowly, but in extended period of time, because it started in 1959. But it went on until 1964. Then it stopped a little bit. Then it started again in 1968. Then after 1968 again, they were other killing in 1973 during the political coup between Habyarimana, I think, and
Kayibanda.
Kayibanda.
Yes.
Et puis,
Yeah.
ce que je vais souligner, c'est qu'il y avait même la marginalisation. Parce que, exemple, Alexandre et moi, nous ne pouvons pas étudier dans les écoles secondaires de l'État. Non, 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 non.
So,
Pour les Tutsis,
in
c'était.
addition to the killing, there was also like this. Okay, so when was the Hutus Ten Commandment done?
Comment? J'ai pas
C'est
compris.
quand est-ce que M. Guitera a écrit les 10 commandements des Hutus?
Je pense à 1958. Hein.
Vous
Ok,
parlez de
Je me
so,
M.
trompe. Les 10
Monsieur
commandements des
Guitera.
Hutus.
Ah, c'était en
Ok,
1959.
Non, elle fait allusion à ça. C'est en 1958, juste avant les événements de 1958, 59. Hein. C'est
okay,
à ce
so
moment.
the person who wrote the Hutus Ten
Avec les 10
Commandments that are
commandements.
in my book,
Oui.
vous avez les 10 commandements dans votre livre, monsieur, ou Mistas, vous avez les 10 commandements de Hutu dans votre livre?
Il y a de la pluie, je n'écoutais pas bien. Il faut.
Est-ce que vous avez les 10 commandements des Hutus dans votre livre? Moi, je
Oui,
l'ai.
oui.
Moi, j'ai les 10 commandements. Ah, vous les avez aussi dans votre livre?
Maintenant, il n'y en a pas. Mais je peux retrouver parce que c'était de la haine, tout simplement.
Je
Qui
l'ai
ne faut pas.
laissé dans mon livre, mais j'ai aucun. I don't have any copy of my book. This is the craziest thing ever. I never travel with my book. But anyway, so I want to say, so the Hutus Ten Commandment, I have it in my book. I put it in my book. It was written in 1958, before the genocide against the Tutsis of 1959. Now, because when you read the Hutus Ten Commandment, there were a lot of restrictions to Tutsis. They were not allowed to get into the army. They were not allowed to go into public schools. They were not allowed to go into universities. They were not allowed to work in the government. They were not allowed to be in the parliament. They were not allowed to do basically. They were not allowed to do anything. The Hutus were the power. Like that's why they created the Hutu power. That's when the ideology of the Hutu power was built. So from 1958, now the ideology of the genocide was built by this man, Gitera. And then the genocide started in 1959. So but the killing in 1959 was extended from 1969, 59, my bad, 1959, extended to 1964, then stopped by Kaibanda, then started again in Bugesera in 1968. And then stopped again, and then started again in 1973 during the coup between Kaibanda and Habyarimana, because Habyarimana wanted to take power, so he killed Kaibanda to become president. Nibyo, right?
Comment?
Yaramwishe cyangwa yamukuyeho gusa?
Inde.
Habyarimana yishe Kaibanda. Habyarimana yishe Kaibanda cyangwa
il n'aurait pas tué sur le coup, mais il l'a
pas
tué
directement, après.
Pas directement.
Okay, so my bad. I want to give the exact history. So Mr. Habyarimana did not kill Kaibanda immediately. He actually took power and removed Kaibanda from power, but afterwards he killed him. He was assassinated.
Oui, il a emprisonné chez lui à Gitarama.
So he imprisoned him first, and then he how did he die?
Kaibanda, bon, il est mort chez lui, mais on dit qu'on venait souvent pour le torturer, et puis il est mort après 3 ans ou 2 ans, je me rappelle.
Okay,
puis-je intervenir, s'il vous plaît, sur ça?
So, yes, please.
Yeah. Alors, ce que
ils l'ont privé de quoi manger. Attends, j'avais demandé la permission d'intervenir, s'il te plaît. Ok. Il a été torturé. On ne lui donnait pas de quoi à manger, de quoi à boire. Et les boîtes de chauffage, on disait qu'il a utilisé les chaises de chez lui pour justement faire la cuisine.
Ok, donc, je vais traduire avant que vous ne continuiez, pour ne pas oublier. So in 1973, Habyarimana had a coup and actually dethroned and took out President Kayibanda from power and became president. But he arrested Kayibanda and put him to prison. But he started torturing Kayibanda while in prison by stopping, by not feeding him, so they didn't give him food. And then, et qu'est-ce qu'ils ont fait? Ils lui ont pas donné la nourriture et la boisson. Ils l'ont pas nourri. Qu'est-ce
Voilà,
qu'ils ont fait?
voilà. Ils l'ont privé de bois de chauffage.
So the
On lui donnait les haricots, mais non cuits. Les haricots non
okay,
cuits.
so they were giving him green beans that they were rotten. They were not they were not cooked.
Oui.
Et puis,
Alors, pour
il chauffait
finir,
avec les chaises de chez lui. Ok, continuez, monsieur Misidas. Pardon.
So basically, they tortured him. They tortured him in prison.
donc,
Okay, monsieur
alors,
Mr.
pour,
Tutsis.
alors, pour
Vous pouvez
finir,
continuer, yeah.
pour finir, c'était vraiment, vous avez fait bien pour évoquer ces 10 commandements, parce qu'on voit vraiment que c'était cette transmission de la haine qui a duré, qui a traversé les années jusqu'en 1994. Hein,
Jusqu'à aujourd'hui.
Oui, jusqu'à aujourd'hui. Parce qu'on disait que les Tutsis sont mauvais, très très mauvais, c'était des serpents, tout ça. Et c'était vraiment la transmission de la haine, c'était un héritage, un mauvais héritage en tout cas. Alors,
so he's mentioning the fact that I did well to mention about the Hutu's 10 Commandments. I personally, when I first read it, I got sick because I could not understand that somebody, a human being, sat down and wrote these commandments. And people believed it. To this day, there are some people that call themselves the disciple or the follower of Gitera, meaning the follower of the person who actually wrote this commandment. And in this commandment, you guys can Google it, or you can get my book. I have it there, or you can even go to History of Rwanda, and then you can read it. But this 10 commandment was actually the fuel behind the ideology of the genocide, building people and teaching people how to to lower or belittle the Tutsis and actually see them as literally nothing, so that they can actually, when they kill them, they have no remorse. Before we go further, I want to ask you, Mr. or Miss Das, to share with me what you shared with me yesterday about that place in Rwanda where the women were cooking. Imitima yaba.
Ah,
So,
oui.
so during the
Oui.
genocide, during the genocide of 1994, now, if we have to talk about the atrocity of 1994, people like there are different level of evil or wickedness. Okay, there are people that were cutting people. They were killers that were cutting people to pieces, raping women. But there were actually other killers that were going the extra mile of wickedness, meaning they were opening the bodies, taking out the organs, especially the hearts, okay, cooking those hearts and eating it. It was not one person, it was not two people, it were many people. So, Mr. or Mrs., can you please share about that part?
Oui. J'aimerais alors terminer avec cette sorte de la haine, cette transmission, mais parce que ces exemples en 1994, alors on a vu vraiment que c'était la haine qui avait vraiment des racines profondes dans ces événements de 1900, dans ces 10 commandements des Hutus. Parce que il y a comme à Tchangougou, on a mangé le cœur de Tutsis. Oui, on tuait les Tutsis, on prenait le cœur, on le mangeait. Même à Nyanza, dans le district de Nyanza, à Mayaga, là, c'était des témoignages des gens de Mayaga qui ont vu ces jeunes Hutus, ces extrémistes Hutus, en train de préparer la viande des Tutsis et leur femme est à côté en train de préparer des bananes pour manger avec. Donc, il y avait de la haine, il y avait des choses qu'on ne pouvait même pas comprendre. Mais
So he's talking
Très
about
horrible. Très horrible.
districts and province in Rwanda, of places where some people were eating, they were barbecuing Tutsis, and their wife will be cooking banana. So we have something called gitoki. It's like the green bananas that we eat a lot. We love to eat it because we have it a lot in our country. The women were cooking that while the husband were cooking the meat, the body of the Tutsis that they had killed, and they were eating the, the, the human bodies with that meat. And it's not just in that place. He was talking about Changugu, Nyanza, other places. So it means it was not just one area where these I would say cannibalistic. This I don't even know how to call it. Was happening.
oh,
And I was telling Mr. Omis that yesterday, and I watched this testimony of this woman who was sharing about how there was a man that she knew who was killing the Tutsis and opening their bodies and taking the livers and the organs and eating it and saying that he doesn't want he's eating it because he doesn't want the blood of the Tutsis to follow him. But for me, when I was listening to that, I'm like, how is that possible to eat a human being so that his blood doesn't follow you? I just was like, I just don't get it. I don't get
voilà.
it.
C'est pour ça que c'est ce que j'avais dit sur cette période avant 1994. Je pense que vous pouvez alors continuer avec Alexandre pour son témoignage.
Okay, so now we are going to go with Mr. Alexandre about the testimony of 1994, which is going to be a very, I'm going to give you a heads up. It's going to be a little touching. I came ready. I got my tissues. I got my water, but I'm ready to translate. And I believe that it's, even though it's painful and it's shocking, um, it has to be said. So yeah, so we're gonna give the floor to Mr. Alexandre. So Monsieur Alexandre, à vous.
Murakoze cyane, ndashimira cyane abaduteze amatwi bose n'abadukurikiye ku mwanya w'agaciro baduhaye, kandi ndashimira by'umwihariko inshuti yanjye ya Romisidasi kuba ambanjirije, kuko hari byinshi cyane anteguriye. Ikintu kirimo gikomeye nshaka gucaho umurongo ni uko yerekanye ko abantu bose, abahutu bose batabaye babi, ko hari n'ababaye beza. Twebwe rero tuvuga ukuri kuriho, ntabwo duhengama.
Okay, so he's starting by actually thanking, of course, thanking the viewers, thanking me for having him here, but also thanking his friend, Mr. Omisdas, for actually starting by sharing the testimony of his father, how his father was actually saved by another group of Hutus that were good people. And it's important to, when we share about our story about the surviving the genocide, it's important to not just put on like a whole blanket of like the Hutus are bad. They were actually behind every Tutsi survivor. There is a Hutu person. Even me, under the bed, it's a Hutu lady who actually saved my life. So and I was also saved by another Hutu soldier who killed other people but who spared my life. So I cannot say that all Hutus are bad. That would be actually like being not truthful. So that's what he said. It's important, even by sharing our story, to actually mention those people that were not evil, that did what was right, that did what was good, that actually stood the ground and did not choose to kill their loved one or their neighbors. So yeah.
Nyuma yo gushima rero ndashima by'umwihariko umwanditsi Aline kuko
He's thanking me.
afite umuhati wo kwereka isi ukuri. Hari ibintu bisa n'ibiri mu mwijima, ariko Aline afite umuhati wo kubicanaho itara ngo bigaragare. Urugero ni ukuba yampaye umwanya umeze gutya ngo nanjye ngire icyo nereka isi.
So he's thanking me for giving him the opportunity to be able to share his story, and for the fact that I have the drive to be able to allow the whole world to know our history and our, like, the pain that we carry. So yeah, so thank you. It's an honor.
Welcome. Kuri jewe ni akantu gato. Kuri jewe ni uburyo bwiza bwo gutegura hazaza heza hejuru, kuko abana bacu bakeneye kumenya uko kuri, kandi ukuri kutabogamye, tukavuga bakoze nabi ko bakoze nabi, n'abakoze neza ko bakoze neza.
So he's saying that it's really important to, like, we owe this to our children, because we need to be able to talk about our story so that our children will know who did good and who did bad, so that they are able to know the whole story and able to know the truth about their legacy.
Nkomeje rero ku buhamya bwanjye nakubiye mu gitabo nise Ndashaka Kubona Data. Ejo twavuze byinshi, ariko ndagira ngo uyu munsi ntangire aho nakoraga kuri gereza ya Kigali yitirirwa izina ry'1930 nk'akazi ko gutwara imodoka nini kamyo.
So he's starting before he goes into the, like, how he survived the genocide against Tutsis of 1994. He wants to start by mentioning that in 1986 he was working as a truck driver at the prison, the Kigali prison, called yitwa gute mu Gifaransa?
Coniono de 1930.
Okay, so the name of that prison is 1930. I don't know why they call it like that, but that's the name. That's the 1930. Yeah.
Niho yubatswe. Umwaka yubatswemo.
So the prison was built in 1930, and the name of it is 1930. But it's actually, I think it's the biggest prison in Kigali, in the capital city of Rwanda. Yeah. So he was working there as a truck driver. So he was the one driving the big truck from one place to another in the prison.
Abahafungirwa iyo adashaka kuvuga ko avuyeyo, akunda kuvuga ngo ni saa moya n'igice 19:30. Iyo umuntu afunguwe bakamubaza ngo uvuye hehe, mvuye naje mu saa moya na 30, 19:30.
So he's saying that for those people that are arrested and that go to that jail, when they come out and they ask them, where were you from? He's like, oh, I just came to 19:30 p.m. So 7:30 p.m. So basically, it's like as if he's reading the time, like it's 7:30 p.m. Yeah.
Nageze rero kuri Nyabarongo mvuye kujyana muri transfer abanyurira Gitarama, nsanga hari barriere y'Abafaransa. Iriho Abafaransa, abasirikare b'Abafaransa.
Which day? Which year?
Byari mu 1992.
1992.
Abasirikare b'Abafaransa niba nibuka neza baje gutabara u Rwanda, inkotanyi APR yateye, Armée Patriotique Rwandaise. Abafaransa baraje baza mu Rwanda. Onusidasi ushaka kunyibutsa umwaka neza?
Depuis 1990. Ils étaient au Rwanda.
Okay, sorry. I have like the dates in Rwanda are just like, to me it's like Chinese. Okay, so yeah. in 1990, right? 1990 inkotanyi zaraje, right? 1990.
Justement, quand l'APR a attaqué le Rwanda, les soldats
1980.
français ont venu intervenir aux côtés des forces armées rwandaises.
Voilà.
Okay,
Voilà.
so in 1990, the Imotani, the Rwandan now they call them the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front. They attacked the Hutu Rwandan army that were actually oppressing the Tutsis in 1990. So then the government, the Hutu government asked the French people, the French country, the country in France, for help or for what for intervention. So they sent the French army to protect the Rwandan army against the Ingotani, so the Rwandan Patriotic Front. So now they had a barricade. They had barricades of the French army from one city to another from 1991 until when?
Mpageze rero nasanze hari barampagarika, umusirikare yakoze ikimenyetso cyo kumpagarika, ndahagarara ku ruhande.
Okay, so one day
Donc,
he was coming from in 1990. C'était en 1992. Mwari mugiye 92 cyangwa 93?
J'étais en train de faire le transfert des détenus vers Gitarama.
Mais
Okay.
c'est après
En
1980.
quelle année?
Je pense à 1991 ou 12. Hein?
Okay.
Je ne peux pas préciser l'année, excusez-moi
So
pour ça.
between 1991 and 1992, so he was transferring prisoners from Kigali to Gitarama. So he was driving back and forth and taking the prisoners from one place to another. So one day he was coming from Gitarama to Kigali, and then he found the French barricade, the French army that had like those borders, and they arrested him. And not arrested him. They stopped him and asked him to park aside because they wanted. I guess they wanted to check, or I don't. Let's call
Voilà.
it to find out.
Un soldat français m'a demandé de lui montrer ma carte d'identité.
So the French soldier asked him to show him his ID, his Rwandan ID.
Je lui ai donné ma carte d'identité.
He showed him his ID.
Il m'a demandé d'où je viens.
He asked him where he
Il
was
m'a
coming.
demandé d'où je... Voilà. Et puis j'ai répondu que je viens de Gitarama. Je lui ai montré mon ordre de mission.
So he showed him his mission order. So he's like the reason of his traveling, because he was traveling from he was taking prisoners from one place to another. So he showed the soldier the reason of his traveling.
Et comme je lui ai répondu en français,
and because he answered him in French,
il m'a dit continue ta route.
So because he answered in French, the French soldier was like, "Oh, okay, just carry on, just move, just keep driving."
Voilà, arrivé à Nyabugogo, c'est tout près de la ville de Kigali.
So
Vous connaissez l'endroit, je pense.
Yes, I know where it is. But when he was entering Kigali,
oui, il y avait une barrière contrôlée par les soldats zaïlois dans le temps, congolais pour le moment.
So when he was entering Kigali, there was another barricade, but now that barricade was not the French soldier, but it was soldiers from Congo DRC.
Ils m'ont arrêté et je me suis arrêté.
They stopped him again. So they stopped him again, yeah.
Un soldat zaïrois a monté, il disait dans sa langue natale, peut-être maternelle, peut-être, il a dit Kita Namutuka. J'ai fait comme ça, je lui ai dit, c'était pas en Swahili, c'était en Lingala, je pense. J'ai dit, monsieur, je ne comprends pas votre langue. Et puis il a été très étonné, il m'a dit, toi, tu parles français? Et j'ai dit, je ne parle pas un bon français, mais je me débrouille. Hein.
So the Congolese guy spoke his native language, and then he told him, he's like, I don't understand what you say, but he replied to him in French.
Yeah.
So the soldier was surprised, and he's like, oh, you speak French? And then he's like, I don't speak it very well, but I do. And then he was surprised.
Ta carte d'identité vite, hein?
So he asked him for his ID again. So just like the French people asked.
Je lui ai donné ma carte d'identité qui était en deux parties, pliée comme ça.
So his ID, the ID was like a folder. So it was folded.
Il a jeté un coup d'œil juste sur le côté droit de ma carte d'identité où était écrit Hutu, Tutsi et toi. L'ethnie était mentionnée dans nos cartes d'identité.
On the ID card, there was a mention of the tribe. So there was Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa, and then you had to say what you were, because they had three tribes in Rwanda. They had the Hutus, the Tutsis, and the Twa.
Quand vous n'êtes pas Hutu, le Hutu était barré. Et puis Tutsi n'était pas barré. Et toi était barré. Le soldat zaïrois.
If you are Tutsis, the Hutus and the Twa side will be crossed, and then it will just stay for the one that you are.
Et puis il m'a demandé, toi tu es Tutsi, ennemi d'Habyarimana.
So he looked at him and he said, oh, so you are Tutsi, you are the enemy of Habyarimana. Habyarimana was the president, so he was president from 1973 to 1994.
Ndamusubiza nti nta kibazo mfitanye na Habyarimana, ndayeri ntabwo anzi.
He answered, he's like, I don't have any problem with Habyarimana, he doesn't even know me.
Icyakoze n'iki nuko yabonyemo imineke yari irimo nari naguze igitarama, muzabisanga mu gitabo, nari nayiguze n'umukobwa mwiza cyane naramwerekanye aho ngaho mu gitabo. Hanyuma ayibonye arambwira ngo d'ailleurs toi tu as commis deux infractions pénales. Je lui ai demandé lesquelles sont.
So he's like, so he gets into the truck. He sees that Mr. Alexandre actually bought some bananas from a beautiful woman that he mentioned very well in the book, and then the Congolese soldier is like, oh, actually you committed two inflation. Inflation is what? Two infractions. Yes, two infractions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. La première, vous êtes Tutsi. La deuxième, vous avez transporté. La deuxième, vous avez transporté les hommes et les biens.
The second, you that's really foolish. But anyway, so he said you committed two infractions. The first infraction, you are Tutsi, so that's already a sin. The second infraction, you transported human being and possession.
Banana, if you want, si vous voulez.
Les choses matérielles.
Les choses les matériaux, oui.
So at that time, you could not transport a human being and also bananas at the same time.
Non, c'était le surveillant de prison qui était avec moi dans le camion, dans la cabine de mon camion, du camion que je conduisais dans le temps.
So he was transporting prisoners. So the soldier is like, you are transporting prisoners and bananas, and it's not right.
Antegeka gukuramo iyo mineke yose ngo nkayishyira ahantu hari imifuka n'undi musirikare waruri aho ngaho ndayimuha.
He asked him to take the bananas outside of the truck and put it on the side next to another soldier.
Nunamye nyiteruye abona mu mufuka harimo inote y'ijana y'amafaranga y'u Rwanda.
So he saw money when he was dropping the bananas, he saw money in his pockets. So he decided
arangije arambwira ngo icyo ni icyo ufite mu mufuka, ngo kuramo ibyo ufite byose mu mufuka. Et puis j'ai fait sortir le billet 100 francs dans ma poche.
So he he saw the money, he said, "What is this money about?" He take it out. So he took all the money that he had in his pocket and he gave it to the soldier.
hanyuma asoma ku note inyandiko iriho Banque Nationale du Rwanda.
And then he read the bill, the money. The name of the institution was a bank, National Bank of Rwanda. So he was reading it.
Il m'a posé une question. Ça, c'est à toi, ça? Je lui ai dit oui. C'est à moi, l'argent.
Continue.
Et puis il m'a dit non, c'est pas à toi. Comment peux-tu te permettre de te promener avec les choses d'autrui? Ça, c'est pour la Banque nationale, c'est pas à toi, ça. Hein? Et puis il a pris ça, il a mis ça dans sa poche.
So he takes the money, he reads the money, National Bank of Rwanda, and he asked him, he's like, "Is this your money?" And he said, "Yeah, that's mine." He's like, "No. Is this your name, National Bank of Rwanda?" And he's like, "But that's my money." He's like, "No, how can you walk with something that is not yours?" So he takes the money and put it in his pocket.
Kugira ngo nihute rero reka tugere mu kwezi kwa kabiri kw'igihumbi kimwe magana cyenda mirongo cyenda na kane ku itariki 22 precisement habayeho ingorane hano muri Kigali zitangaje.
Okay, so he's going to jump and go to February 1994, where there were atrocities that were happening in Kigali. So from that event in 1992, he's jumping forward to 1994, February 1994, where there were atrocities that happened in Kigali, in the capital city where he was working.
Hari umuntu w'umugabo umwe witwaga Bucyana yavukaga icyangugu yahimbye ishyaka yashinze ishyaka bitaga CDR.
So there was somebody called Chanu.
Bucyana.
There was a man called Bucyana. There was a man called Bucyana who was originally from Cyangugu, and he created a party called CDR, right?
CDR, oui.
CDR. So CDR, yeah. So he created a party called CDR.
Yaravuye iwabo icyangugu ageze Butare ahitwa Imbazi, hanyuma barahamutegera baramwica.
So one day he was going to his home in Cyangugu. Then on his way back between Cyangugu and Butare, he was arrested and they killed him there.
C'est à Mbazi précisément.
In a place called Mbazi.
Et puis il a été tué là-bas. Par des gens que
he was assassinated. He was killed by people that did they find the people?
Yeah. Ariko igitangaje nuko bananiwe kujya gushaka bamwiciye Butare, hano i Kigali bahita batangira gutera ingo z'abatutsi no gukubita no kwica no kwambura abantu bose bonaga bari bazi ko ari abatutsi.
So after they killed that person who founded CDR, they started killing any Tutsis in Kigali that was called Tutsis because ils ont pensé que c'était des Tutsis qui l'ont tué, right? Et ils voulaient se venger. Pourquoi est-ce qu'ils ont commencé à tuer
abatutsi bafatwaga nk'aya sekurume irangiza urubanza. Icyabaga cyose yabaga ari umwanya utagira ukusa ku ba extremiste b'abahutu wo kwikiza abatutsi nubwo nta mpamvu. Urugero ntanga ibyo byabereye mu birometero birenze 100 by'i Kigali, ariko mbwira ukuntu wabibaza umuntu uri i Kigali atabigizemo uruhare.
Oh, okay, I get it. So this guy was killed in the southern part of Rwanda, like over 100 kilometers, so over like 200 miles from the capital city. But when he was killed, they started killing Tutsis in Kigali. Why? Because they always found a reason to actually start killing. So the the Hutu extremists were always finding a situation. So if there's, let's say, a killing somewhere, they would just take that opportunity to just start killing Tutsis. So when that person was killed in that place, they decided in February 1994 to start killing people, Tutsis, in Kigali.
bateye rero kwa data bukwe iwabo umugore wanjye bari batuye i Remera aho bita mu Nyakabanda, bahita bahungira muri Eto Kicukiro. Eto ni école technique officielle de Kicukiro.
So in 1994 he was already married with a child. So his family-in-law, they attacked his family-in-law's household, and he ran from where he was to another place called Eto Kicukiro to hide, to run from the killers.
Aho rero niho hari abasirikare kontenja y'Ababiligi ya minual, kuko bari bahizeye ko habonera umutekano, niho bahungiye kuri Eto.
So his family-in-law actually ran away to Eto Kicukiro, a place where there was the army, the army from Belgium had a camp. So people were, the Tutsi people were thinking that if they can run to that camp, they will feel safe because it was run by the Belgium army.
Aho ngaho niho banagumye kugeza muri 90 mu mezi yakurikiyeho mu kwezi kwa kane nyuma y'amezi abiri tariki 11.
So they stayed there from February 1994 to April 1994.
Yeah. 11 April.
To April 11, 1994.
Yeah. Niho babakuye rero ku iyo tariki bajya kubica, basizwe n'abasirikare b'Ababiligi bari bakabaye babarengera.
Sure. Okay. So his in-law, so his family-in-law actually hid from February 1994 to April 11, 1994. But on April 11, 1994, the army that was protecting and covering them from February to April, they decided to give them to the killers to be killed.
Iyo aho mpageze mba numva ndakariye cyane oni n'abasirikare b'Ababiligi.
So every time he shared this part of his story, he gets mad at the United Nations, the blue helmets, because that they are the people that handed his family to the killers.
Je n'ubu numva nabarega kuko ntabwo numva ukuntu abantu bari bashinzwe kurinda umutekano w'abantu aricyo cyabazanye n'imbunda ziremereye n'intoya, barangiza bakabasiga kugeza aho umuryango w'umugore wanjye kwa data bukwe bahashirira bose.
So to this day he still doesn't understand how can somebody, they came to protect and they came to bring to ensure the safety of the population, but when it came to protect the people that were actually running for their lives and they had guns for them, they decided to leave those people to the killers, and the people that they had come to protect, they just ran away and left them to be killed. So in that group, his entire family-in-law were all exterminated because they were all killed on April 11, 1994.
Ushaka kumenya ibyahabereye neza azaze, kuko turibuka buri gihe mu kwezi kwa kane tariki 11 tujyayo, yumva ubuhamya buhatangirwa n'ibyahabereye, n'ibintu biteye ubwoba. Jewe nshyira ikosa cyane kuri oni.
So he's mentioning whoever wants to really know the story about about how the stories that happened during the on April 11 at that place in Kigali, where they exterminated his family-in-law. They can come on April during the commemoration of the genocide on April 11 because they are testimony. People share testimony of the atrocities that happened, and every time he thinks about it, he blames the United Nations for actually enabling it.
Yewe wangira umupolisi akantuma woni ngo nyifate bayifunge, naba nka Derek nayishyira ivi ku ijosi, narangiza ikambwira ngo simpumeka ngakomeza kugeza irangije kugira, naba Derek nanjye kuri woni.
He says if he was a policeman, if he was a police officer, he will arrest on the United Nations, and he will make them feel like what George Floyd felt on when he was on the ground and he couldn't breathe, and he will be like Derek, the policeman Derek, who actually killed George Floyd, because he feels like the United Nations actually were responsible for the people that were killed on April 11 because of the blue helmet.
kuva rero icyo gihe cyose ntabwo Kigali yari itekanye, buri joro wumvaga ibisasu biturika byinshi cyane, ari za grenade cyangwa se ari n'amasasu y'imbunda ntoya.
So from that moment, there was either at night there was shootings and gunshot and all these things, like bomb. I won't say bomb, but grenade throwing. So there was no more peace. Like there was a war, but the war was not. The war was not yet intensified, but it had started from February until April. It had already started.
Nageraga rero iwanjye nimugoroba nkajya ku izamu kugira ngo nze kureba ko ntawe utera urugo rwanjye, nkageza mu masaha akuze.
Every time he was coming home from work from that time, from February 1994, he had become now the watchman of his household. So he would just watch his household to make sure that nobody would throw a grenade in his household until early in the morning.
Hari igiti nakundaga guhagararamo ku buryo ntawambonaga, ariko igihe kimwe mu gicuku ku itariki 6 ngira ngo niba nibuka neza hari kuwa gatatu.
What is Esheshatu na nini yari mu Faransa?
Le 6 février 1994.
Le 6 février, okay. Okay, so there was a tree he used to go to actually hide in the tree so that he can see who's coming towards his house. But he remembers a particular night on February 6, 1994.
Numvise ibisasu biturika, ngira ngo ni bya bindi bisanzwe, ariko biri muri direction ya Kanombe, mbona n'urumuri mu kirere rwari ruhari. Byari bibiri.
My goodness, is it April 6 or February 6? I think it's April 6, not February.
April, not February.
Okay, yeah.
April 6.
Okay, so I'm sorry, because I know the history, so I'm like, that's not February, that was April 6. So on April 6, 1994, one night, as he was still taking care, watching from the tree that he normally watches to make sure that nobody gets into his house or throws any grenade in his house, he heard like a bomb or a grenade that was falling, but it was close to the airport. Kanombe is in the airport, so he was in direction to the airport direction.
Ntabwo nari menye ko ari indege Habyarimana president wa kera yararimo irashwe.
So he didn't know that it was the plane of Habyarimana, the president at that time, that had just crashed.
Mu masaha akuze hari nko mu masaha 6 z'ijoro, c'était vers minuit 24 heures si vous voulez.
So it was around midnight. It was around midnight that time. So it was now April 7.
Nasubiye mu nzu kuryama ku iyo saha ya saa sita, ngenda gake ngo ntakangura umugore wanjye n'umwana bari basinziriye, nkingura bukeya ninjira mu cyumba bukeya.
So he went back inside the house around midnight. So it was already now April 7, but it was midnight. It was late midnight April 7. So he decided to get inside his house, but he decided to walk slowly because his wife and his daughter was sleeping, so he didn't want to wake them up.
Yeah. Ndaryama, ariko nkuko nari mbimenyereye mu gitondo saa 11 à 5h du matin je me suis réveillé, mfungura radio kugira ngo numve amakuru.
So he woke up like a normal day on April 7, and he decided at 5 a.m. and he decided to put on the radio to listen to the news.
mpita murirana n'itangazo rivuga ngo itangazo ngo ntabwo ndivuga textuellement ariko ryavugaga ko indege y'umukuru w'igihugu yarashwe none abantu bose basabwa kuguma mu rugo ntihagire usohoka kandi ntibanemerewe gukora group irenze abantu babiri.
So so on the radio it said exactly that the people in the radio were saying that the president of Rwanda was killed in a plane crash, and they were actually giving an executive order, telling people not to leave their house and not have any group of more than 2 people in the house. So basically, the whole country, the whole city, I don't know if it was the country, but the whole city was on lockdown. They were not allowed to go out, and they were not allowed to have any group of more than 2 people.
C'est ça. Umugore wanjye yafunguye arakanguka, akangutse noneho arambwira ati sheri, ati kubera iki uzindukana n'abanyamakuru ba radio nkaho mukorana kuri radio?
So his wife woke up, and then she actually realized he was listening to the radio, and she's like, "Oh, darling, why do you just wake up like you are working at the news station, like by listening to the news at first?" So she was making a joke.
Uburyamutinze warangiza ukabyuka kare gutya noneho nanjye ndamubwira ndekute nihumura ndibuka aho naringejeje nsinziriye ni noneho maheri ndaza guhera aho naringejeje nsinziriye.
Okay, so he responded to her, said, "Don't worry, like because she was concerned by the fact that he spent the whole night, watching over the house to make sure that nobody throws any grenade, and then he wakes up extremely early to listen to the news. So she was concerned about his sleep, and then he said to her that, "Don't worry, I post my sleep, but I'm gonna go back and then sleep again."
Araseka mubwiye gutya araseka acana itara ahitamo akabizu ku itama arongera araryama. Iyo niyo souvenir mfite kugeza ubu yaransezeye nuko yansezeye.
So I'm gonna get my tissue close to me. So she smiled at him, she kissed him, and then
yacanye itara.
Yes, okay, so she switched on the light, she kissed
arandeba.
Arandeba. So she switched on the light, she looked at him, she kissed him.
Araseka.
Okay, so I need to make sure I translate it very well. She switched on the light, she looked at him in the eyes, she smiled at him, she kissed him on the cheek, then she went back to sleep, and that was the last memory that he has of her alive.
Iryo tangazo rero ryumvise nahise nongera ndamubyutsa nti ibyo numvise ko ari bibi niko bari butwice.
So he woke her up and he said, "You know what? The news that I just heard, it's not good news. I have a feeling that they are going to kill us."
Ndamubwira nti twebwe mfite imbaraga ariko uri kumwe n'Imana ngwino tugende ugiye kugira aho uhungira jewe ndaza niruka mpa gusanga ariko uve hano.
So he said, "You know what? I can run. I can take care of myself, but you have a child, you have a baby. So let's go, wake up, get ready. Let's go. We'll find a place for you and our daughter to hide, so that they don't find us in the house."
Fata igikapo dushyiramo iby'umwana yabaga akeneye bikeya hanyuma mushyira imbere ntwafata umwana turagenda.
Some stuff, she packed a little bag for the baby. She took the baby and they started walking. They left the house.
Umwana n'igihe wamutwaye noneho turagenda tugira aho duhungira aho ngaho bukeye araharara bukeye natwe baradutera.
One holding the baby and she was the one holding the bag, and then they left.
Bukeye araharara bukeye rero baradutera baza bashaka kutwica nanjye mpungiraho yaraye aho ngaho.
So now that night they didn't sleep in the same place. So he found a place for her and his daughter to hide, and then he went somewhere else to hide. So they were separated. But then that very night of April 7, they came to kill the people where he was. So he decided to leave the house where he was, to run to his wife and daughter to hide with them.
nta wasinziraga, twararaga twiraririye, dufite amabuye, dufite ibintu twakwirwanishaho.
So no one was sleeping at night. Everybody had something to like a stone, amabuye niki ngari mufite
Ni stone. Ni stone.
Yes. So they didn't have any machetes. They did not have machetes. They had stones. So they were fighting people with machetes with stones. So for those who are talking about double genocide, just make the balance. They did not have any gun. They did not have any machetes. They had stones to protect them.
And the sticks, the stick de bois. Inkoni mu Kinyarwanda. Noneho turaharara, komera Aline, komera. Turaharara tumaze kuharara ku gasozi araberetware kugira ngo turinde abagore n'abana bo bari bari mu nzu.
So they didn't sleep in the house. So the men actually slept on the hill facing the house, but the women were in the house with the children.
Mu gitondo rongera kureba uko baramutse ngo mbasuhuze, hanyuma arasohoka we n'umwana duhagarana hanze. Umwana araza ndamufata muri uwo mwanya nari mufite, hanyuma abo twari kumwe baravuga bati igitero kiraje, ngwino dufashe kurwana nacyo.
Okay, so in the morning he decided to go and greet his wife and daughter. So I'm sorry. So he went to the house, and then she came out with the baby. So he held the baby in his arms, and he was just spending time with his daughter, and he was talking to his wife. And as soon as they started talking, the other men who were on the hill, they told him, "Come, the killers are coming for us. We need to fight. We need to fight for our lives." So he gave his daughter back to his mom, and he went to help the Tutsi men to fight and protect their loved ones.
Muri gihe nari mfite ikibazo gikomeye cyo kumva impamvu umwana nk'uwo wanjye, umwana w'umukobwa wanjye nk'uwo utazi ibyo azira agiye gupfa kuri pour un simple raison que elle n'est Tutsi. Ntabwo nari numvaga mbabaye, kandi numvaga ntabyumva, nkavuga ni kuki ntabyumva, peut-être que je suis idiot. Pourquoi je comprends pas ça? Pourquoi il faut tuer une petite fille pareille?
As he was giving the little baby to his wife, he was wondering in his heart, how can this little girl who didn't do anything, how will she die right now because of one reason alone, that she was born Tutsi? And he couldn't.
En fait, j'étais très irrité. He was irritated
by that. He was irritated by the fact that he could not understand why she had to die just because she's Tutsi.
Noneho ndababwira nti mwebwe ni mujye imbere muhunge, twe dusigara inyuma turwana kugira ngo dutinze bariya bishi baje kuduhiga kugera ku bagore n'abana. Twahaye avance abagore n'abana.
So the men told the women to go ahead, and then they will stop the killers. They will fight the killers, so that they have they can run at least and go further while they try to stop the killers. So that even if they try to start to kill them, they will start by killing the fathers before they kill the women and the children.
Nazamutse rero nshaka kurira, ariko mu muco wacu w'Abanyarwanda turavuga ngo amarira y'umugabo atemba ajya mu nda. Ntabwo nashaka kwereka abantu turi kumwe ko bavuga ngo ndi ikigwari, kuko iyo urize mu Rwanda baravuga ngo uri ikigwari iyo uri umugabo cyane cyane. Abagore ngo bafite uburenganzira bwo kurira.
As he was going up to fight, he wanted to cry, but because of the culture, the Rwandan culture that says that a man shouldn't cry, so he tried to hold his tears from within, so that his friend wouldn't see that he was sad and he was angry and
maze kubatera ibitugu niho nabashije kurekura amarira araza ndihanagura ngera ku bandi barimo barwana amarira nayakuyeho.
So as soon as he got to the people to start the fight, he wiped his tears and he started focusing on protecting his family.
Abari baduteye bari benshi cyane tubatera amabuye adushiriraho n'ibitutsi n'urusaku bari bafite turaneshwa mu byukuri.
The people that came to kill them were so many, so the stone that they had was not enough, so they threw all the stone that they had and there was no longer enough stones, so they decided to and it was not just the stones, they were insulting them, so it was not just the fact that there were too many, they were throwing at people with machetes and with a lot of things.
Turihuta rero tugenda dukurikiye ikirari cyangwa direction abagore n'abana bacu banyuzemo.
So they were following the direction of the women and the children so that they could protect them. So they were actually following them to make sure that they are protected. So they were following their mothers, their wives and kids to protect them.
Tugeze rero ahitwa Nyarufunzo tugana i Butamwa twasanze hari barriere.
So they got into an area and then there was a barricade of the killers.
Liliane umugore wanjye Liliane n'umwana wanjye Gashami nabo bari kumwe babona barriere barayikwepa banyura inyuma yayo.
So his wife Liliane and his daughter they saw the barricade. Gashami. His daughter Gashami and his wife Liliane, they saw the barricade of the killers and thankfully they avoided the barricade, so they were not killed.
Twebwe tugiye duhura niyo barriere iraduhagarika.
So because they were ahead of them, so his wife and his daughter were safe, but when they arrived, they could not run away from that barricade, so they were arrested.
Aho banyuze aho ngaho nabo bahasanze indi barriere irabahagarika irababwira ngo mutuzaniye umutekano muke ni musubiraho muvuye, babasubiza inyuma bakubita inkoni nyinshi.
So they missed the first barricade, but then they also faced a second barricade, and those people told them, you are causing us trouble. They started beating them up because they were all women. So they started beating them up and asked them to go back to the barricade that they had run from.
Kuko umugore wanjye nanjye twari duturanye na nyirakuru twari twajyanye twari twahunganye arabaza ati ariko muradukubitira iki twakoze iki we bahita bamwicira aho ngaho.
What is nyirakuru?
Nyirakuru ni grandmother.
Grand-mère.
La grand-mère de ma femme. Eh?
Okay, so they were living, so him and his wife and his daughter, they were living with the grandmother of the wife. And so when they were running, they ran with her. So when they got to the second barricade where they started beating the women, the old woman asked the people, they're like, why are you hurting us? What did we do to you? And then they killed her.
Twebwe ubwo twari twabaye imfungwa z'iyo barriere yadufashe ntabwo nabashaka kuyivamo ngo nsubire inyuma mbasanga ariko narabonaga hakurya basubira inyuma.
So they did not know that they had pushed and brought the other people back. So, but they found themselves back to the same barricade.
Iyo barriere twari turiho batwatse ibyo twari dufite byose inkoni amabuye twari twitwaje mu ntoke tubirambika hasi badutegeka kuzamura amaboko gutya.
So in that barricade, they took all the stones that they had and the sticks that they had to fight. So they had no longer anything to protect themselves, and they also asked them to just surrender, so to leave their hands in surrender.
Umwe muri bo wari urimo afite umuhoro utyaye aratubaza ngo kuki mutuzanira umutekano muke? Twebwe twari dutekanye, mutuzanira umutekano muke kubera iki?
Umutekano is safety, right? Umutekano ni safety. Ni protection.
Ni amahoro. Twari dufite amahoro. Donc nous on était un peu, vous nous amenez les problèmes.
Voilà les problèmes, le désordre quoi.
Le désordre. Okay, so at that barricade, the killers were like, oh, you know, we were in peace without you, and now you are bringing us a disorder. Now you have to remember that they consider the Tutsis as cockroaches, as animals, as, you know. So if they see a group of Tutsis, they see us as a group of literally like cockroaches or like animals or yeah.
Naramusubije ariko nta mutekano muke tubazaniye, ahubwo ni mutureke twigendere, twe ntabwo turwana.
So he responded to the person who was saying that why are you coming without to cause us like a lack of peace, and then he responded to that killer. He said, you know what, we are here, we don't want to cause any problem, just leave us, let us go, we're not gonna fight with you, we just want to go.
Andakariye cyane araza nsanga afite umuhoro, aravuga ngo urumva uko agisubiza.
So he got mad and he came. Umuhoro ni iki mu Faransa?
Machete.
Okay, so he came. So he got mad and he came with a machete to come to actually hit Mr Alexandre.
Yanshinjaga ngo mushubije nabi, ubwo ngo azamura umuhoro agiye kuntema.
So he got mad and he wanted to cut him, to hit him with the machete.
No, mfata umuhoro, mfata akaboko ikiganza kimwe ahafite umuhoro kuri poignet, aha nifata mu muhoro, mureba mu maso gutya ndamutumbira.
So as he was about to hit to slay him with the machete, he held the machete and he held his other hand and he looked at his face, in the face of the killer.
Ndamubaza nti koko urampora iki? Jewe uranzi ndeba neza, uranzi? Jewe ntabwo nkuzi, ntawe nakubona.
Then he asked the killer, he said, do you know me? Why are you trying to kill me? Do you know me? Wow,
nakugize nte nanjye ntabwo nkuzi.
What did I do to you? Do you know me? Why do you want to kill me? Do you know me?
Arandeba no nkajya numva imbaraga mu muhoro mu kaboko ziragabanuka, arangije arakurura ngo umuhoro wanjye, ahita nkata hano ahangaha.
Okay, so as he was holding the killer, the killer actually pulled the machete and he said, give me my machete, and then he actually sliced his hand. So he cut his hand, so he has a scar of that day.
Yeah. Noneho arandekura nkuramo umupira nari mfite, mfata akaboko kawo ndahambira kuko haravaga cyane.
So because he was bleeding, because he slashed him with the machete, of course, so there was blood all over the place. So he took his shirt and he made a band-aid on his hand.
Arambwira ngo wanshakiraga iki ku muhoro?
The killer asked him again, what did you want with my machete?
Arambwira ngo noneho ngo nibigende.
Then he told them, okay, you guys can go.
Undi bari kumwe aravuga ngo bagenda bajya he, ngo izi nyenzi wewe wazirekura.
So the other killer was like, where are they going? Are you going to leave these cockroaches?
Noneho ngo nimufate ibyo mufite byose mubishyire hasi kugira ngo tubarike mugende, ngo turebe ko nta mbunda mufite, ngo n'amafaranga muyashyire hasi, n'isaha muyishyire hasi.
So he said, okay, take everything out of your anything, any possession that you have, put it down so that we can see that you have no gun and nothing, and then we'll let you go.
Abo twari kumwe bambaye amasaha bashyira hasi, amafaranga bashyira hasi n'ibindi, bagiye kubitora turangije kwerekana ko ntacyo dufite, arabwira ngo ya mugende mutabi.
So after they gave everything they had, their watches, their money, everything that they had, then they released them. They told them that they can go.
aha turakomeza tugera hari hubatse komine Butamwa neza kuri aho ibiro bya komine Butamwa byari biri, twasanga abatutsi benshi bari baturutse impande zose bafite n'inka bari ku kibuga.
So they got to leave the barricade, and then they were walking. Then they got into another place. Now in that place, they found many other Tutsis that were actually there that had survived those killings, and they were actually now also hiding and seeking refuge.
Aho ngaho hari umwana bari batemye mu mutwe gutya, hanyuma ngira umuntu inama ndavuga ndetse kwivurira ririya kuki utamujyanye ngo bamuvure, ngo arangije anasubiza ngo ndamuvuza kuba mwishe se niba musonga.
So he saw in that place, he saw a little child that was cut. He had his head was split by a machete, and he was telling the father, he said, why don't you take your child to this hospital so they can actually heal the like your child. And then the father was like, how can I take my child to the people that actually did it?
Ye naramubwiye nti reka mujyane muvuze nanjye nivuze, nawe arankurikira araza, tugeze mu ivuriro tuhasanga umugore wakoragamo.
So he decided, he told the father, he's like, let me take your child because I also need to be healed. So I will take your child with me, and we will go so that we can both be taken care of. So when he got inside that hospital or the clinic, he actually found a woman who helped them.
Atangira kudoda ko kana nta n'ikinya yari yagateye, akabwira amagambo mabi ngo mwabikoraga muzi ko bitazabagaruka, ngo nimureke musaruri muto mwabibye. Abwira umwana muto yongeranyije mbona n'umwana w'imyaka nk'icyenda, hagati y'7 n'9 gutyo.
So the child was around 9 or 10 years old, and when they got to that clinic, the woman who took care of that child didn't even put any anesthesia. That they didn't put any. They didn't numb the child so that the child wouldn't feel the pain. She was sewing the wound, insulting the child, saying that, oh, did you think that you wouldn't get it? Did you think that you wouldn't reap what you got? I like insulting, doing all these insulting thing to the child, to a 9-year-old child.
Ye nahise mfata icyemezo mvuga ngo ntabwo ndi ari bumvure, nahise mbireka ntabwo nidodesheje.
So when she saw
naravuze n'umuntu ubwira umwana ungana gutyo utabizi, jewe nangeraho uzi ubwenge kuko nari mfite imyaka 32.
Wowe yakwica. So he said to himself, he's like, if this woman is saying these things to a 9-year-old child, me who's 32 years old, she's going to do what? She's going to kill me. So he's like, I'm not going to let her touch me.
Twaraye ku kibuga rero, noneho bigeze nimugoroba haza kuza umuyobozi wungirije yari wungirije burugumestre icyo gihe, adukoresha inama, aratubwira ngo mwitonde, muvanye umutekanye muke aho mwari muri, none mubuzanye hano, nimureba nabi ni mwebwe bigwa nabi, ntabwo ari undi wundi.
So they spent the night in that place where they found the other Tutsis who had run away there. But then the following day, I think one leader who was close to the mayor. Is it the mayor or the
assistant
burgomestre?
So the assistant of the mayor came, and he said to them, he's like, you brought disorder. Just watch out, because you might actually it was like basically actually like threatening them that they brought disorder. So wherever a Tutsi will be, it's like they are bringing a problem. They're bringing situation or problem. So that guy was kind of like giving them like a metaphoric thing by saying, oh, you brought some situation and it's gonna fall on you.
Nihuse rero bukeye twaraye ku kibuga aho ngaho, hanyuma bukeye mu gitondo njya kubona mbona numva urusaku rw'imodoka.
So in that morning, early that morning, he heard he heard a lot of cars outside.
Ndebye nsanga ni imodoka yo mu bwoko bwa Daihatsu Charade ya Dr Gasasira pardon.
So he said that when he looked at the car, it was a car brand called Daihatsu Sarasi by that belonged Charade. Okay. Charade, which I have no idea what car that is. So I can't even describe.
Yasaga n'umweru. Yari imodoka y'umweru, yari mini jeep si vous voulez. Ya ka jeep gato.
It's like a truck. Okay, so it was like
a mini jeep. Mini jeep. Jeep aka jeep gatoya like Suzuki vous connaissez le.
So it was like an SUV car but like a truck. So it's like a mini.
It's not truck. Like a truck. It's not
no,
like
so
a
in
truck.
America, a truck is a very big truck. So we have.
Sorry.
A truck in tuvuga truck ni
camion.
Pana camions. Oh gosh, I don't know how to say it.
Camionette is a pickup. Pickup.
Yeah.
It was like Suzuki. It was like Suzuki Samurai.
Okay, so it was like a car. Okay, yeah. Actually, how I can describe it, it's like the cars that the soldier have, like the one where you can sit at the back, right?
Mercedes, mfasha aho ngaho.
I have no idea what that car is. I have no idea.
En tout cas, c'était un pick-up.
Non, ce n'était pas un pick-up. Non.
Okay, so it was a pick-up truck.
C'était un mini.
We call it pick-up truck. Okay, it was a pick-up
un petit jeep, si vous voulez, like Suzuki, like Lavafo.
Okay, so it was like a pick-up truck. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ndebye rero mbona havuyemo abantu umumama munini w'inzobe yari député honorable Kabageni.
So in that car there was a woman. He described her as a big, light woman who was honorable. She was her name is Honorable Mukaba.
Kabageni.
Honorable Mukabageni.
Kabageni. Voilà, c'est ça. Havamo umugore wa Dr Gasarasi avamo Gasasira pardon n'umugore we nawe yari docteur Nyiramirimo.
So the owner of the car was Dr Gasarasira. So
sa femme
he came out, his wife came out.
Et il y avait aussi, si je me souviens bien, 2 enfants qui sont sortis.
And 2 of their children.
Umwe muri abo bana yari mu miratre. Il était miratrice parce qu'il était, je ne me souviens pas s'il était garçon ou fille.
Okay, so there were 2 kids that came out with the wife and the doctor and a big woman.
Yeah. Binjira mu biro byo kwa burugumestre witwaga Rohan wari uhari, basohoka n'umupolisi ababwira ngo dore hari icyambu.
So they came out. So they got into the office of the mayor or the leader, and then they came out with a policeman, and the policeman actually showed them and say, oh no, or they showed it to the policeman and say, oh that they are people. What does it mean?
Icyambu ni ahantu wakwambukira Nyabarongo ukajya hakurya harimo ubwato basozaga.
Impôt.
Ntabwo ari ikiraro, po ni ikiraro. On peut appeler ça port. Voilà.
A bridge?
Not a bridge. A port.
A port. Okay.
Port. Il y avait des bateaux en bois qu'on utilisait en traversant la rivière Nyabarongo vers l'autre côté de la rivière.
Okay, so they were close to a river that had small boats, like kayak boats, where you can actually cross the river from one place to another.
tumanuka twihuta dusanga icyo cyambu noneho tukigezeho umuntu aravuga ngo inyenzi zirabacitse.
So as they were going towards the river to actually get into that boat, somebody was like, "Oh, the cockroach, like you missed the cockroaches. Like the cockroaches are leaving. They are running away."
Baramanuka rero baje batangira kuturasa, turiruka turasandagira.
So they started shooting at them because they realized that they were Tutsis that were trying to run. So they started
kuko twari benshi cyane aho ngaho bagerageza kwambuka, twari benshi bahunga Kigali.
So because there were so many Tutsis that were trying to cross the river running from Kigali, they couldn't shoot all of them.
Turiruka ariko harimo umwe witwa Tresfor yahoze ari umu officier, yari muri école des officiers militaires bitaga SM, école des officiers militaires. Baramwirukana kuko bavumbuye ko ari umututsi, nawe yari muri twebwe agiye guhunga.
So one of the Tutsi people that were there was actually an ex-soldier that was part of the army, the Rwandan army. But then when they found out, when he was in the school of the soldier to become an army, like a soldier, and then they found out that he was Tutsi, so they removed him. So he was also running for his life in the group.
Barasa twuvaga amasasu aduca hejuru kuko hari ibyatsi byinshi, rimwe na rimwe ukabona n'icyatsi kiguye hasi bakirashe, we aca bugufi anyura munsi y'ibyatsi.
So him, because he was a trained soldier, so the shootings were coming, and it was because the grass field were they were higher, so they could hide under the grass. So because he was well trained, so he was going under the trees or whatever, the grass, so that they couldn't shoot at him.
Noneho nabonye arambitse inda hasi, ngira ngo baramurashe, ndamufata ngira ngo ni umuntu turi kumwe mukomeze, hanyuma arambwira ati kuki ufata, ati ndekura ahubwo nkurikira.
So he thought he was shot when he was on the ground and he was crawling. He thought he was shot, so he wanted to help him and hold him so that they could run together. And then the man told him, "Don't touch me. Actually, do it like me, because that's what I'm doing. I'm not shot. I'm actually. If you keep on standing and running, they're going to shoot at you. They're going to get you."
Ndamukurikira, amaze kumukurikira turagenda ahantu urugendo runini cyane, ariko yaransigaga kuko wabonaga ameze nk'umuntu woga, yarabimenyereye. Tugera rero
so they got in the river, so he followed this man, but because this man was a trained soldier, so he was actually he knew how to swim, he knew how to survive, so he was ahead of him. But they went in a long way, but he was swimming quicker, he was swimming faster than he was.
Tugeze rero ku nkombe za Nyabarongo, dusanga hari ahantu hatengutse umugina habaye éboulement, on appelle ça éboulement en français.
So when they crossed the river and they got on the other side of the river, they actually found out that there was a side of the shore that had collapsed.
Hari hateyeho urubingo, rumwe rusigara hakuno, urundi rujyana n'igitengo, hari hameze gutya.
So there was in geology we call it folding. We call it folded. So there was a thrust fold. So there was like a movement of landslide. So there was a landslide along the shore. So there was a movement of landslide. So yeah.
Tujya hagati aho ngaho akora akantu kameze nk'intebe mu gitaka, vuba yicaramo araruhuka, nanjye mbonye ari byiza ndamwigana, twicaramo dutangira kwibwirana.
So now on that landslide, he decided to make a hole and then sit in that hole, and he decided to do the same, and they sat together and they started talking to each other.
Noneho tubaho ngaho, ndamubwira arambwira ati niba uzi koga tuzambuka, ntacyo ndamubwira ni jewe ntabwo nzi koga, ni noga nk'ibuye nduhukira ku ndiba.
So the man told him, he's like, you know what, if you know how to swim, actually we will swim across and then we will go. And then he told him, he's like, I don't know how to swim.
ariko hagati aho muri izo mpunzi zari ziri aho ngaho bavugaga inkuru mbabaza aho nasize umugore kuko nari mpazi kwitwaga Ruhiza, bahita bambwira bati abantu bose bahashubije bahabasanze barabica babashyira mu cyobo cyari gihari. Ngerageza kudekiriva umugore wanjye arambwira bati nawe bamwishe n'umwana yari afite nigiye urokotsemo nzanira.
Okay, so while they were sharing the story of how they found themselves in that place, he actually talked about his wife and he described his wife. And then that man was like, oh, actually, I saw her. She was killed with the child. And I'm the only one who survived in that group. So that's when he found out that his wife and child were killed.
Aho rero nahise numva asa n'utinyutse urupfu, nkumva hari nanjye nkwiye gupfa nkajyana nabo, kuko numvaga mvuga nti kuki ntaretse ngo bari abandasa ariko njye kure uko nabarwanaho. Icyo nakimaranye igihe numva muri jyewe mfitemo intambara.
So at that point now he just wanted to die, because now he realized that his wife and daughter did not survive, and he was like, oh, why did I even like bother to hide from the gunshot? I might as well have been shot because my family is dead.
Uwo Teresforo twari turi kumwe wo nabwiraga aho zari umusirikare, atangira kumanuka no kunywa amazi ya Nyabarongo asa n'ikigina.
So he started he's talking about the soldier. He said he started to drink that water, and he started to survive. Basically, he was doing things to survive. He was drinking that dirty water to survive.
Tumarana iminsi tuganira, ariko hashize iminsi 5 inzara iratwica.
So of course they spent time together, but after 5 days they were starving because there was no food, there was nothing.
Arambwira ati noneho reka kuko n'imvura yagwaga uruzi rukazamura nivo rwarazamukaga. Arambwira ati bientôt la rivière Nyabarongo va sortir d'eau solide et puis elle va nous chasser d'ici. Alors,
okay. So he said because in April it's a raining season in Rwanda, so it was raining heavily during the genocide while people were outside running for their lives. It was raining. So he said, he's like, if we don't move from here, this river is going to overflow, and we will have to leave. So we have to find another place to move because it was raining and the river bank was increasing.
Arasohoka ajya kureba ngo yari afite parewe hafi aho ngaho ngo ajye kumureba amusabe umunsi Nyabarongo yatwirukanye azatwakira duhishe.
So this man had a godfather who was not living far from that place, and he decided to go. And help and ask him, beg him, in case that river bank goes up, if they can actually come to his house and he will hide them.
Umunsi wa mbere ijoro rya mbere yaragiye abasha kugaruka, ariko ambwira amakuru, arambwira ati babandi bose twari turi kumwe barapfuye, ati kereka niko bavugaga. Il m'a raconté donc ce qui s'est passé ce jour-là où on était en train de chercher la fuite, comment on peut fuir vers Gitarama. Il me disait que tout était exterminé.
He went to his
sauf le docteur Gassarasi qui les a échappés, qui a échappé de justesse.
So he went to the godfather to ask for that request, and then he came back. The first time he went, he came back, and then he came and told him that everybody that had actually run with them, everybody was killed except one person.
Le docteur Gassarasi.
Dr. Gassarasi.
Yeah. Noneho ku nshuro ya kabiri aza kujyayo, cyakora iyo nshuro ya mbere anzaniye igisheke kiramfasha.
So the first time he went, he came back with something to help him to eat and to survive.
C'est une canne à sucre. Il m'a amené une canne à sucre qui m'a beaucoup aidé.
Sugar cane.
Yeah. noneho asubiyeyo bwa kabiri ndamubwira niko numva afite ubwoba waretse kujyayo uko butarira cyane ukareka bariyeri bakabanza bagasinzira.
So the second time when he was going, he didn't feel at peace. He's like, you know what? I feel like you shouldn't go. I think you should stay because the barricade is closed. Wait for the killers to move before you go.
Arambwira ati humura ntacyo ndi we ntukajya ugira ubwoba tubutesi busige. Aragenda haciye akanya numva induru ziravuze ngo nimumufate hanyuma ngira ubwoba ndavuga ntibanza ari we bishe.
So when he went for the second time, then when he left, he told him, he said, don't worry, they're not going to do anything to me. So he went back, and when he went back a second time, they stopped him and killed him.
La nuit là, je l'ai attendu jusqu'à ce qu'il ne pas revenu.
He waited for him the whole night and he didn't come back.
Numva ndakariye Imana ndavuga nti abanjye warabishe none jewe ngiye gupfa none ari mbonye tuganira hanga nawe uraretse arapfa kandi niwe watugize abatutsi. Numvaga Imana nyishyiraho urupfu rw'abantu bose nari nyirakariye muri gihe.
So that night he talked to God and he said, God, like my family is gone, my wife is killed, my daughter is killed, even the person that I was talking to now is dead, and you are the one who created us as Tutsis. So he was mad at God. He's like, why did you create us as Tutsis? So he was basically mad at the fact that God created him as Tutsi.
Mfata icyemezo cyo kwijugunya muri Nyabarongo nanjye ngo injyane.
So he made a decision to throw himself in the river so that river can just kill him and take him.
Nibuka ko mama twigisha yajyaga tubwira ko mu mategeko y'Imana harimo itegeko rivuga ngo ntukice kandi ngo iyo wiyahuye nawe uba wiyishe ubwo rero ntushobora kujya mu ijuru.
So when he was about to do it, when he was about to throw himself in the river, he remembered what his mother told him, that you shall not kill and you shall not kill yourself. So if you kill yourself, you are not going to go to heaven. So he remembered that when he was about to throw himself in the river.
Yeah. Mpindura icyemezo ndavuga ngo ntabwo niyahura kuko niyahuye sinabona ijuru kandi mama n'abanjye bose bari mu ijuru sinshaka rero kuba aho batari.
So he after he came to his senses, like, I don't want to kill myself because if I kill myself, I won't be able to see my wife, my daughter, my family, everybody that was killed, because I will not be in heaven with them.
Ndavuga ngo reka ndirimbe bumva aho ndi noneho nibumva aho ndi baraza gushaka umuntu urimbira aho ngaho baze banyice ngiye kuzamura ijwi ngo ndirimbe birananira kuko ntabwo nari mfite imbaraga.
So he decided to sing out loud so that the killers can find out where he was so they can come and kill him. So when he was about to sing out loud, he didn't have any voice to sing because he was tired and he was weak.
Mama ziminsi nzari nyishe ndavuga nti reka biva aho ngaho mu bwihisho nzamutse ngeze hejuru y'urukombe kuri hejuru kuri boru nyine isereri ramfata kubera inzara nitura hasi.
So because he had spent so many days without eating and drinking and having anything to eat, he decided to move from where he was to go up because at that time he was no longer afraid of death. So he decided to just move from where he was to go up, and as soon as he went from where he was so weak and tired, he fainted.
Ariko icyo ntababwiye nuko muri Nyabarongo hatagiye kutembamo imirambo myinshi y'abantu nari imeze nk'umuntu uri kuri ekrage yerekana ibibera hanze aho ngaho ariko biteye ubwoba ku manywa na nijoro hahitaga imirambo myinshi cyane.
So what he wants to mention, when he was by the river started being filled by dead bodies. So there were many bodies that were now filling the river. The river was starting to be filled with river. So he felt like he was like watching an horror movie with his own eyes. So he decided to leave the place where he was sitting by the river to go up, and then he fainted.
Yeah. Noneho niyemeza guhaguruka ngo nkomeze urugendo maze kugira nshaka ibyatsi ngo mbifate mbihagurukireho umfashe numva mfasha akantu k'akabuto ndagakurikira nsanga ni intoryi nyinshi cyane zari zihari nkuramo ingofero y'ikote yari ifatanyijwe n'indumane nzishyiramo ukora nimbonye ibyo kurya nsubira hahandi.
So as he was so tired and so weak, he pulled something on the ground, and when he thought it was like something, a stone or something, when he thought it was a vegetable.
Aubergine, aubergine, intoryi. Mu gifaransa ni aubergine.
Okay, so it's like an eggplant.
Yeah.
It's a kind of eggplant, but it's not the big eggplant that we know here in America. It's like a small, like a
A
smaller
big
kind
called in Kinyarwanda, big called biringanya. Kiriya kinini cyane gitukura bakita biringanya, kinini umwe butoya bita intoryi, aubergine en français.
twebwe ahangaha icyo kinini bakita eggplant, icyo gitoya I don't know how they call it, but
ni aubergine mu
it's
gifaransa.
a kind of vegetable. Let's just say it's a kind
Yeah,
of vegetable.
a
So
kind of
he
vegetable.
found when he was now looking, he found like a whole line of those vegetables. So he decided to pick them up, and it became his food. So he carried those the vegetables, and then he went back to the place where he was hiding from. But this is a side thing. That's his provision. Imana ni Imana yabibahaye.
Yamana narakariye imibyo kurya mu buryo bw'igitangaza.
The God he was mad at provided those vegetables the following time. So that he couldn't die. So I was telling him that was provision. Even though yes, he wanted to die, but God provided for him to survive.
Nahamaze iminsi rero intoryi zirashira, noneho ntangira kumva nkeneye gupfa. Umunsi umwe ku manywa hari nka nimugoroba nko mu masaha ya saa 7.
So he ate, sorry. So he ate the whole vegetables, and then there was no longer those vegetables were finished. So now he wanted to die. So he decided
umunsi umwe bigeje à cet jour vers 13h d'ici, hari abantu baje guhiga.
Around 1 p.m. In Rwandan time, people came to
chasser. Ils sont venus nous chasser les gens qui sont cachés dans les brousses là-bas.
Okay, so around 1 p.m. In the afternoon, the killers came to chase the Tutsis that were hiding in the place where he was.
Kubera ko aho abantu batuye bari bararangije kubica bose, noneho basigara bashaka bihishe mu bihuru aho ngaho.
So the place, so people, they had finished killing people from the houses, and now they were looking for people that were hiding, like by the river shore, in the forest and stuff like that. Yeah.
Bararasaga ku buryo buri milimetero yose bayirasagaho. Nanjye bageze hafi yanjye aho ngaho numva barekeye kurasa, umuntu aravuga ati nimumbabarire, bahagarika amasasu.
Okay, so he could hear them shooting from afar, but when they got closer to where he was, they stopped shooting, and then he heard somebody saying, please forgive me.
Baramubaza ngo ntabwo uri umututsi, arababwira ngo ndiwe ariko ntabwo nzongera kubawe. Baraseka cyane.
So they asked the person, they're like, are you Tutsi? He's like, I am, but I promise I will never be Tutsi again. And they started laughing at him.
Baravuga ngo uzahinduka gute se, ngo umwabwira undi ngo nimupfushe ubusa amasasu, nimumukubite nta mpongano, nimumuteme musongeshe nta mpongano. Sorry.
So they answered to the person who say he's Tutsi and he will never be Tutsi again. He's like, do not waste your bullets with this cockroach. Actually, let's cut him to pieces.
Et il faut l'achever avec le massi. Namongano, c'est le massi. Ou hiri, si vous voulez. On appelle ça massi en français. Et puis, j'ai attendu un bruit. Il a été jeté dans la rivière Nyabarongo.
So after they cut him to pieces and after they did what they did to him, they threw him in the river.
baravugaga ngo nyura ahangaha uzagera Abisini aho waturutse nk'uko Mugesera yabivuze.
I'm
Donc
sorry,
je fais allusion au discours de Mugesera.
I'm sorry, I needed to take a break because I had a trigger. So
Okay.
they after they killed him, they just throw the body, and then they left. Mr. Alexandre, can you please not give all these details? Let them read it in the book, because
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, ok. Ok, je te comprends. Alors,
Yeah.
ils ont continué leur chasse.
So
Arrivé tout près de moi,
kept on looking for the killers, the Tutsis to kill. Yeah, carry on.
Merci. Oui, je te comprends. C'est quand même... Alors, ils sont arrivés tout près de moi. Quand ils avançaient vers moi, j'ai commencé à prier. Comme j'avais lu la Bible, il y a un passage biblique.
When they got close to him, he started praying, and he remembered a scripture.
Naravuze ngo niba koko ari wowe wakuye Daniyeli mu mwobo w'intare, ukaba ari wowe wabujije Saduraka, Meshaki na Abedenego gushya, nanjye nkiza.
So when they got closer to him, he prayed this prayer. He said, God, if really you saved Daniel from the lion's den, you saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the fire, please save me from this.
Et la prière a été exaucée tout de suite.
That prayer was answered immediately. They stopped.
Yeah. Et ils m'ont donné l'information que j'en avais vraiment besoin. J'avais besoin de cette information-là. Ils ont dit, murabona amasasu aradushiranye, tuzabwira Kabutura na Habyarimana abo bafite amasasu menshi, tuzagaruke ejo duhige. Barahari nkuko RTL yavuze. Okay,
so when they got closer to him, they said to themselves, let's stop for today, because we don't have enough bullets, and we're going to ask for somebody to give us the resources back for tomorrow, and come back to finish what we started.
Radio RTL yatubwiye ko inyenzi zizi kwihisha ubwo zafashe Rebero. Le FPR avait déjà s'emparé la colline de Rebero, l'armée patriotique rwandaise, mais je n'avais pas cette information. Je possédais pas cette information.
So the killers were given an information that he did not have, that the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the Ingotanyi, the Tutsi army, not the killers, but the Tutsi army had actually taken over a side of the mountain, but he was not aware of it. So God answered his prayer by actually telling him where he could go and seek for help.
Yeah. Noneho bampaye makuru, bampa n'amakuru ko najye ngavuga nti none mon ami Tresfor ashobora kuba yaragezeyo akibera yakumva ko giye wakanyibagirwa. Barambwira ngo nimuzi se ngo hano zirahari na Tresfor twamwisha avuye hano.
So he was wondering. Remember the friend that he met, who had gone to his godfather and never came back. So he was still hoping that man was hiding there and he didn't come back. So so as he was wondering, his prayer was also answered, because he found out by the killers that they were talking to each other, and they were like, oh, you know what, there are more cockroach, because we killed Tresford, and there were more Tutsis, so we need to come back tomorrow and kill those cockroach. So he found out that where the RPF was, and he also found out that his friend was killed.
Yeah. Noneho nafashe icyemezo cy'uko ndibuvemo ejo nibansanga aho ngaho, ariko byantwaye igihe kuko hari barriere hafi aho, nagomba kugenda nk'itungo ngenda akatrepati kugira ngo hatagira umbona.
So he made a decision to leave the place where he was because he knew they were gonna come back the following day to start from where he was. So he decided to leave that place, but he had now, because there was other barricades that were around the area, he had to crawl like a little child so that he could actually hide from the barricades.
Bwankereyeho rero ntabashe kugeraho rebero ngo mbashe kugeraho Armée Patriotique Rwandaise yari yafashe bunkeraho.
Can you repeat?
Bwakeye ntabashije kugeraho Armée Patriotique Rwandaise yari yafashe aho muri zone ya Armée Patriotique Rwandaise.
So the morning came and he had not yet gotten to he had not yet reached to the place where the RPF were.
Icyo nakoze rero ni iki, naravuze nti nimba irangamuntu mfite ahangaha baranyica, nafashe irangamuntu kuko nabaye umuskuti, nagendanaga ikaramu, urwembe n'urushinge n'urudodo.
So because the following day he couldn't reach so because the following day he couldn't reach the RPF area to actually being able to he couldn't reach the RPF area to be able to be safe. He decided to falsify his identity card. So what he did, he always carried a pen and a needle and
urudodo, urwembe n'ikaramu n'agapapuro.
He had urushinge, it's a needle. So he had a pen, he had a needle, he had a pen, he had a razor. He had a razor. So he had a razor, a needle, a pen, and then what?
Un petit bout de papier.
And a little paper. So he even in all his running, in all his thing, look at how God protected him. He ran, he hid, and those things didn't leave him. The needle was staying in his pocket. The needle, the pen, the paper, and the razor did not leave him.
Noneho mfata urwembe nsiba kuko hutu yari bare, nkuramo nkoresha izuru ry'urwembe ndahasiba, nkuramo ikaramu yari isibye hutu. No, mfata ikaramu nsiba tutsi.
So he took his ID, he crossed the Tutsi, and then he tried to remove the ink on the side of Hutu so that it shows that he's Hutu and not Tutsi.
Nagize ikibazo rero ko ikaramu bari barasibishije aho ngaho yari umukara, je mfite ubururu.
So the problem that he had, the pen he used to falsify, to scratch the Tutsi side and then scratch the Hutu side, it was a blue pen, but the normal pen they normally use is black. So it was a confusion.
Nasibuye rero Hutu aho nari nasibye nandikamo ndahuzuza kugira ngo Hutu igaragare ko idasibye. Tutsi nshishemo sanga birageze, mfata ikaramu y'ubururu nari mfite ncisha mu mukara ariko byaragaragara gukuntu.
Yeah, so he mixed the colors. Right? He mixed the colors, but he managed to make sure that he removed he scratched the Tutsi side to show that he's not Tutsi, and then he removed the black side of the Hutu side to show that he's Hutu.
Nihishe rero mu gahuru ko ari hafi aho ngaho umaze gucya nsohokamo, ngeze hanze ni byinshi ariko hari umuryango nagiye gusuhuzamo baranyakira.
So after that he decided to come out of where he was and he just walked to a house, and then that family just welcomed him. That's also a miracle.
Banjyana kuri bariyeri baravuga ngo ntabwo dushobora kugucumbikira, bari abantu batugwa nabi n'abicanyi, reka tukujyane twerekane ko ari ntuzi ko uri umuntu tuzi. Bavuga ko banzi. C'est aussi un miracle.
So this family decided to lie and actually say that they know him, but they decided to take him to the barricade first and tell them that, you know what, we know this man, he's Hutu, we know him, but he's staying with us.
Ibyo bintu sinareka kubyandika kubera ko ntabwo iyo tuvuga abakoze ibibi n'abakoze ibyiza tukabavuga. Ni umuryango wa Nshogoza uwo nguwo wakoze ikintu cyiza.
So sorry, I was gonna say it in Kinyarwanda. The family that helped him, the family that he wants to actually mention, they were Hutu, and they actually are the one that saved him. They are called Umuryango, the family of who? Umuryango wa
Nshogoza.
The family, the Chongoza's family.
Yeah. Barangije baravuga ngo tugende tujye kuri commune naho bampa icyangombwa cyanditse. Ngiyeyo nsangayo burugumestre.
So they took him to the district to get him an ID, a proper Hutu ID, so that he doesn't have to use the one that is falsified. So when they got there, they met the leader of the place, of the area.
Twari turi kumwe dushaka kwambuka icyo gihe twashaka kwambuka rwa ruzi. Yambonye nyuma y'ibyumweru hafi bitatu abona ni umuntu uzutse kuko yarazi ko abandi bose babishe.
So that man thought that they were running together when they were trying to cross the river. So when he saw him, he thought that he was somebody who had come back to life. So he was so shocked because he thought he was dead. So he was shocked to see him.
Anyandikira urupapuro nyine rwerekana ko ncumbitse aho ngaho kandi ko ndi umuhutu.
So that man actually provided a paper that said that he's living in that place with that family and he's Hutu.
Noneho ngiye nsubiye hahandi narindi barambwira bati noneho uradufasha gukora kuri bariyeri, gukora byitwaga kwica.
So now that same person was said, okay, now since you have the paper, you're gonna help us work, meaning you are going to help us kill the people by the barricade.
Narahageze njya kuri bariyeri barambwira bati uwo nafite irangamuntu yanditse mu Tutsi uramutwereka tumwice.
So sorry. So he said, okay, so you're gonna come with us at the barricade and you're gonna help us work. So they were calling killing work. So you're gonna help us work and you're gonna help us. You're gonna show us the Tutsis and we're gonna kill them.
Hagiye kuza rero haza imodoka yo mu bwoko bwa kombi VW.
So there were people that were in a car, in a VW car.
Noneho ndayegera nyegereye umuntu umwe arimo ni byumvuhore no muhanzi aramenya arambwira ati Alexandre ati uri hano ndi hano ngo kuva ryari mu kanya gato.
So he met somebody who knew him and he said, oh, you here since when? And he's like, I've been here for a time now.
Arambwira ati se waruzi byabaye kwa mushiki wawe na muramu wawe?
So the guy, the person asked him, he said, do you know what happened in your sister's house and in your family-in-law's house?
Arambwira ati bose barabishuhereye ku mwana wawe w'imfura bari bafite abana 8 babyaye impanga kabiri bari bafite abana 8 ati na bose barabishe.
So the sister had 8 children and they were all killed. The sister was killed, her husband they were all killed.
Arangije rero akibimbwira numvise muri jewe ntakaje imbaraga numva sinza hondi ngenda nihuta ndabafungura nti ngaho ni mugende kugira ngo hatagira ubyumva mo twari kumwe.
So
hari igiti gitambitse mu nzira nicyo nakuyeho. Sorry.
He lost the strength and he didn't know what to do, so he told the person to leave because he didn't want anybody who thought he was Hutu to hear the news that he was given, and he just told him to leave. But he had lost any strength. He felt helpless.
Iyo ngereranyije nsanga kuri bariyeri nta minota, namaze nk'iminota 20, 15, 20 kuko iyo modoka yisiza bambwire iyo makuru.
So it was like around 20 minutes that he spent with that person.
Nuko noneho ubwo mbyihusemo rero nahise mfatwa n'uburwayi, barampeka banjyana kuri bya bitaro, bansangamo malaria, bampimye basangamo 42 ibipimo by'ubushyuhe, temperature, bampa serumu n'imiti.
As soon as after he heard the news about his sister and the children and everybody being killed, he got extremely sick, and they took him to the hospital because he had a high fever, and they found out that he had malaria, so they put him in the hospital.
Aha, noneho nihuse inkotanyi kuko zarwanaga zerekeza aho ngaho, cyangwa la Armée Patriotique Rwandaise, icyo gihe bafata hafi aho ngaho abasirikare bo kwa Habyarimana, barakomereka benshi babazana mu bitaro, twe badukura ku bitanda baturambika hasi.
So during the time when he was in the hospital, the RPF got closer. They started getting closer to where he was, and there was a lot of casualties from the Habyarimana's armies, and had a lot of casualties. So they were bringing the people that were wounded in the hospital. So they removed them from the bed, and they were sleeping on the floor so that the soldier, the Hutu soldier, can actually be on the have the beds.
Aha, bampa imiti, baradusezera ngo nitugende tujye kurwarira mu ngo aho twari turi. Mpageze mburuntera urushinge kuko nari mfite imiti, ariko ngumya kuremba, nari ngiye kwapfira. Basaba umuntu umwe mu bari baraho wakoraga isuku kwa muganga.
So because he had malaria and he needed to be injected regularly, but they didn't have any space in the hospital, so they asked the people that had malaria or had like little sicknesses, they asked them to go and recover at home. But he didn't have anybody to actually inject him the medication, so he asked somebody who was working at the hospital to help him.
Yari umukirina, yarasukuraga, arangije aravuga ngo ati muhumure, mfite urushinge njya nteza inyana yanjye, ndarukoresha muterege ndabizi, nirwo yantezaga urwo rushinge yatezaga. Ariko narakize malgré tout. Imani
himbaze. So he met somebody who was cleaning. The person was cleaning at the hospital, and the person was like, I do have a syringe that I actually use to give to the cows, to inject the cows when the cows are sick. So he was using the same syringe that he uses for the cows, which are like the big one. Yeah, the big syringe that you use for animals. Those were the syringe.
Ariko narakize malgré tout.
Yeah, that was the syringe that was used to give him the medication. But he's like, I was healed. That's the most important thing.
Aha, igihe cyarageze rero inkotanyi zifashe aho turi, abo twari kumwe barahunga, jewe nanga guhunga kuko nta mbaraga nari mfite ngo bahunga.
Okay, so after that, the RPF actually took over the area. I don't know if it was a city or the town or the neighborhood. So people ran away, but because he didn't have any strength to run away, he stayed there.
Bageze aho narindi, abo twari kumwe bahunze baravuga, bari hanze abasirikare bati ni musohoka bari mu nzu kandi mushyira amaboko hejuru. Nsohoka nakiza amaboko hejuru n'ijye ngena rurimo.
So he came out. So the RPF asked everybody who was in the house to come out with their hands up. So he came out with his hand up, and he didn't have anything, and he was the only one because everybody had run away.
barambaza ngo kuki wowe utahunze, ndababwira ngo nari ndambiwe guhunga.
So he asked, they asked him, why didn't you run away? And he's like, I was tired to run.
Umusirikare arambwira ngo kuki urambiwe guhunga, ndamubwira nti nimfa mpfira aha ngaha ndashaka urupfu rwiza, sinshaka urupfu rubi. Arambwira ngo reka ubugoryi, ngo urupfu rubi n'uruhu rwiza n'uruhe.
So then he's like, I don't actually mind dying. I just want to die a good kind of death. And then the soldier was like, okay, so what is the good death and the bad death?
Ndamubwira n'urwiza n'urw'isasu, urubi n'urw'umuhoro. Ngo none se wahunze imihoro ni cyane.
So then the soldier was I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it is funny. So it's funny. So actually, so he tells the RPF soldier, he's like, you know what? Actually, I want to die a good death, so go ahead because I don't want to die. I'm tired of running. So the soldier now has a conversation with him. He's like, also, what kind of death? What is the death that you were running away from? He's like, well, there's the death of the machete, and there's the death of the gunshot. I prefer the gunshot. And he's like, oh, so were you running away from the machete? He's like, yeah, I was. So that was actually to let the soldier know that I am actually a Tutsi.
yari yambaye imyambaro y'ingabo zo isa n'ingabo zo kwa Habyarimana. Nashaka ko anyicisha isasi akanyica. Arambwira ngo humura, ntacyo utibaye, twebwe turi inkotanyi.
Okay. So actually, so when Mr. Alexandre was having this conversation, he did not know that this soldier was Tutsi. He thought, because he was in uniform, so he thought that he was from the army of Habyarimana. So he was from the army of the Hutus that were killing. So he was like, he was tired of running. So actually he was talking. He was just like ready to die, but he's like, at least this time he's gonna die with a shot, with a gunshot. So it's best.
Yarambwiye ngo humura, ntabwo humura, turi inkotanyi z'amarere, ntabwo ugipfuye.
So then he's like, don't worry, humura, don't worry. We are inkotanyi z'amarere. What does it mean? We are.
Okay, nice. Ntacyo byihorera ibyo.
Yeah, so don't worry, you are one of us, like you will not die anymore. So he let him know that I'm actually here to protect you, not to kill you, not to harm you.
Iyo humura yambwiye yari humura nari nyene, iryo jambo nari nzi ko ryapfuye ritakibaho.
So that word, don't worry, he thought that it did not exist anymore. So hearing it from a soldier revived something in him.
Naryumvise mu buryo bukomeye cyane, niruta kuko ryari humura ahita igira efe ako kanya. Humura ntugipfuye. Numvise koko ari humura, biruta humura yabwirwa umuntu urwaje umuntu mu bitaro ngo humura habonetse impyiko yo guha wawe ejo tuzamubaga tuyimusubize. Murumva ko wategereza, ariko je humura yanjye ntiyategerezaga.
So he felt like that don't worry was like an immediate sense of safety. Like he felt like he was now safe, that he didn't have to run for his life, and like he felt so safe, and he felt that he didn't have to run away for his life. You know, Mr. Alexandre, musico is experience yanyu neyange biri hafi. Nanjye ni similar, ariko ngewe ntabwo ari, I don't think ntabwo nibuka si ari inkotanyi cyangwa ari aba nibuka umuzungu wari wambaye uniform. So I don't know if I was 5, ariko nibuka ko yari yambaye uniform, arambwira ngo humura. And when he said it, I felt at that time I was at the nari ndimo kwinjira muri refugee muri Uganda refugee camp. So icyo gihe yambwire ngo humura, I felt safe. Nibyo yari afite imbunda, ariko ngewe at that time I felt like he would protect me from the abo bari bafite machetes, because my memory of the people were people with machetes with things on their head. It was like I felt like even though he had a gun, but when he said don't worry, I felt safe. So I was saying to Mr. Alexandre, that feeling that he felt, I also felt it when I got to the refugee camp, when I heard the soldier say, you don't have to run anymore for your life.
Umusirikare umwe mu bari baraho nasanze tuziranye ari mwene wacu ahita anjyana aho nahoze igikondo ndihuta, mpageze aho nahoze ntuye mbura inzu mbura iki nta muntu nasanze, cyakora nasanze umukecuru hafi aho ngaho w'umuhutukazi ndamubaza.
So among the soldier from the RPF, there was somebody that he knew that it was related to him. So he took him back to his hometown where he was, and he found nobody because they were all killed except an old lady who was around there.
Nasanze abantu bubatse inzu nshya ntari isanzwe, ndimbaza uwo mukecuru ni inzu ni yande, arambwira ngo niyo mwitaga Ngendo, wakoraga ahantu akazi ko mu rugo.
So he asked, okay, who's this house for? And then the old lady
hafi yaho nari ntuye nasanze inzu zacu zarashenywe, ariko nsanga hari ahantu hubatswe inzu nshya ntari nzi.
Okay, so they destroyed the house of his father, his family. They destroyed all the houses, and there was only a house that was built that he didn't know of. And he's like, oh, who's this house for? Like, who's the owner of this house? And he's like, the old lady was like, oh, it belongs to somebody.
Ngendo.
Yeah.
Bambwira rero ko ngo yafashe igitero akijyana kwa sebuja aho yakoraga, arabica bose, yisigira umwana umwe witwa Uwamahoro, twamwitaga Amahoro, afata ibikoresho yubakamo inzu, arangije arongora uwo mwana kandi yishe iwabo bareba. Umbabarire nkuru kuyivuga ntabwo nayirenga. Donc umukozi wo mu rugo yishe ba sebuja bose, asiga umwana umwe amugira umugore, niwe wari wubatse iyo nzu mu bikoresho byo kwa sebuka we yishe.
How do you translate this? Okay, so Mr. or Mrs. I'm sorry, but we'll have to. Okay, so their house help. They had a house help. The house help was a man. Yeah. The house help killed the whole family except one girl.
Yeah, one girl.
Then
he
married the girl. So he killed killed the daughter, the whole family. He was working with the maid. Yes. So the maid, the house help. So the house help killed his boss, his bosses, everybody, the children, and kept one girl for himself. Then, Then he killed the whole family in front of that girl, then married the girl, then destroyed the house where the girl was raised, build another house.
Yes.
The girl.
Dans leur propre parcelle, dans la parcelle de la père de la fille là, en question.
Okay, I need to repeat it because it has to be very, very, like, this is a crazy story. We have a housemaid. We have a house help. Somebody who's a maid, but a man. This man kills the boss, so the husband, the wife, and the other children, all the children except one daughter. But he kills the whole family in front of that woman, that daughter. He ends up marrying that daughter. He destroyed the whole house, and he built another house in the same lot of that house, and he lives with that girl in that house.
Oui.
Voilà, c'est
Et
ça.
puis, et puis, il avait tué ses parents, toute sa famille devant elle. Devant elle.
And
Elle
he
avait
Voilà.
tué.
killed,
Oui.
he killed her own, all her family in front of her.
Yeah. Et puis,
Alors,
il a pris comme sa femme, sa propre femme.
Then he married her.
Yeah.
alors la vieille qui nous donnait des informations, la vieille là, aratubwira ngo kuki Imana utatumye mpfa mbere y'uko mbona ibyo nabonye no kumva ibyo numvise.
So the old woman, ni mwebwe mwibashije cyangwa uwo mukecuru yibashije Imana?
Twabajije uwo mukecuru ngo iyi nzu ni iyande, qui appartient la nouvelle maison. Arrivé à Kigarama, tout près où j'étais habité, j'ai demandé à la vieille à qui appartient la nouvelle maison. Hein? Comme la vieille m'a répondu, la maison appartient à Ngendo. Il nous a raconté l'histoire que je viens de vous dire. Hein? Et puis, il nous a dit, pourquoi ne m'a pas tué mon bon Dieu avant de voir ce que j'ai vu et avant d'écouter? Pourquoi ne m'a pas laissé partir avant?
So
la vieille là était Hutu. Donc pour montrer que parmi les Hutus, il y avait des Hutus méchants et les autres qui ne le sont pas.
So he wants to emphasize to say that this old woman who shared the story, she was crying out. She said, God, why did you take me and you allowed me to watch this atrocity with my own eyes of this man killing this whole family, marrying the woman, and building another house on the lot of the things? So she was crying. So he's mentioning that and saying that not every Hutu killed people. There were people that were watching, helpless and traumatized themselves by what they watched the other people do.
Il a prononcé les paroles que je vais vous dire. Hein. Il disait, moi étant adulte, je ne peux pas endurer cette pleuve-là que la petite fille a endurée. Comment est-ce qu'elle peut dormir avec lui dans une même maison, dans un même lit? Comment peut-elle endurer l'épreuve là, la petite fille? C'est ça. Bon, c'est la vieille qui nous racontait ça, qui nous disait ça.
So the lady said, I quote, how can I am an adult. I cannot endure what this little girl has endured. How can she live and sleep and be in the same house with the person who killed her family in front of her very eyes, destroyed her household in front of her very eyes? But how can she do that?
Et ensuite coucher avec lui.
And sleep with this man. Noneho uwo mugore, uwo mukobwa yamufashe ku ngufu cyangwa uwo mukobwa deliberately yaryamanaga n'umugabo?
Non, yari umwana. Elle avait à peine 17 ans. Elle avait à peine 17 ans.
So the girl was 17.
Yeah. Elle avait à peine 17 ans.
The girl who had gone through all this traumatic thing was 17, married to this man who had killed her family, destroyed her household, built another house in the same place.
C'est incroyable, mais c'est vrai. C'est très horrible, c'est très horrible. Alors, je suis arrivé là où j'habitais chez moi. La maison n'était pas là. Et la maison était détruite. Hein?
So when he got to where he lived, the house was destroyed.
Nkiri umusore amafaranga yose nakoreraga nayashyiraga kuri iyo nzu. Yari yarambujije kwambara neza, kugura ipikipiki nziza. Abandi icyo gihe twagendera ku mapikipiki ya asa special Yamaha. Abakobwa baragukundaga cyane bose iyo bagufite ipikipiki nk'iyo. Ngewe narabyigomwe, nigomwa kujya muri boîte de nuit nubaka iyo nzu. Nsanga ntayihari.
you have to understand, Mr. Alexandre actually finds a sense of humor in the pain, because you have to laugh about it, otherwise you will just go crazy. So he says he found he gets to his household and he found the house is destroyed, but he had sacrificed all his life to build this house. He sacrificed the money from buying a motorbike that every woman liked. He sacrificed money. He didn't go to the nightclub. He didn't buy nice clothes. He built this house. He built this house for his family, and he arrived, and all the money that he invested in the house is all gone because the house was gone.
J'étais encore avec Kabanda. Kabanda, le soldat m'accompagnait, le soldat de l'APR m'accompagnait.
So the soldier, his name was Mr. Kabanda. He was escorting him to his house.
Nambutse ngiye mu itongo, arambwira ati hagarara mbanze ndasiyo mbwita kurasa itakurya. Ndimo ngenda mu itongo aho bashenye inzu. Il y avait un chien là-bas. Itongo ni
Allô? Il y avait un chien et le soldat dit attends, je vais
là où était la maison. Voilà. Là où était la maison. Dans les débris, si vous voulez.
Okay, so when he got to his house was destroyed. So he decided to walk through the remaining of the house, and then the soldier who had escorted him, he saw a dog. And he's like, you know what? Wait, let me shoot this dog so that it doesn't hurt you before you get through.
Nyirebye irabyuka irinanura mbona n'imbwa yanjye yasigaye aho ngaho ndavuga ntibyibuze yo ndayirokoye ndamubwira nti wirasa ni yanjye.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Alexandre.
For those who did not hear this, in part 1, he was mentioning about his best friend, the dog. Like he had a best friend who was a dog. So when he came back, the house was destroyed, everything was gone, but the dog was surviving.
Was still there.
So he said, he's like, at least he protected, like he saved his dog. So he was happy to see his dog.
Le comble de malheur, j'ai voulu caresser mon chien et le chien m'a fui.
So he wanted to pet his dog, but the dog was traumatized and the dog ran away.
Bari barayikubise cyane bazaga gusenya ikabamokera yabamokera ishaka kubafata barayikubita.
So apparently they beat the dog so much because every time they were coming to destroy the house, the dog would bark so much, so they were beating, so the dog was so traumatized. Now when he went to pet him, the dog thought he was going to hit him, so he ran away.
Byarambabaje cyane, nagize agahinda kenshi kuko nari kuba nyisigaranye byibuze mu byo nari mfite, inzu ntihari, umugore n'umwana ntibahari, abavandimwe ntibahari, ariko nari kuba nsigaranye imbwa nayirampunga.
So it hurt him even more because he had lost his wife, he had lost his wife, his daughter, and he thought that the dog was gonna be the one that he would keep, but then the dog was traumatized and the dog ran away. The dog waited for him to come back home.
Hari umuturanyi utari ufite ikibazo mu tutari dufite, afite abana babiri bakimbona baza birukanka baza ngo dore papa gashami baza kumhobera.
I'm sorry, I have to take a break. So when the dog left,
ndarangije ahubwo.
Yeah, so the dog left, and then there were neighbors that came and they recognized him and they came to greet him.
Utwana tubiri twiza turaza turamuhobera ndaduhobera, kamwe karanyongora ngo waruzi ngo ni nkubwira abantu bakubaganuza amabombo kitwaga Mutoni, ni Mutoni
Oh, ari.
ntuzi iyo similarity kitwaga Mutoni karanyongorera ngo
So
papa
the
gashami ngo nikubwira abantu bakubagana ngo uzampa bombo nticyane mbwira arambwira ngo buriya inzu yawe papa anko na sogokuru bakuraho amabati ngo shaho imbwira abamokera ngo barayikubita shaho kampa amakuru yose
okay, so the little girl whose last name is the same last name as me. Her name was Umutoni too. She came to him and she's like, Uncle, Uncle, if I tell you a secret, will you give me some candy? And then he's like, yes, tell me, tell me. Then the child is like, yeah, my dad and my grandfather actually came to your house and they took the roof and they took. So basically, she was sharing who actually destroyed his house. It was her own parents.
wari uzi amabati aho bayakuye ari hejuru y'inzu iwacu maze bashyizeho n'amabuye ngo umuyaga utayatwara no kwa sogokuru niko bimeze.
Oh,
So the child, this is the beauty of children.
Yeah.
So the child literally exposed her parents. She's like, so the roof, how do you say is it the roof or the, yes. So they removed the thing from the roof and then they put it in theirs and they actually added some stone to make sure that the wind doesn't take it away. And then she's like, you see, this one, they actually from your house, even the ones at my grandfather, they came from your house because they came and they took it from your house. So they destroy your
maze muri
house.
sari wacu harimo n'intebe yawe muri sari wacu harimo
Even
n'intebe
in our living room, there's like your furniture are in our living room.
ntabwo rero nasoza ntavuze ko mu gihe twari turi muri ibyo ngibyo hari umwe mu nterahamwe wafashe grenade ashaka gutera wa musirikare twari kumwe avuga ngo ntabwo muzadutegeka mwambwamo grenade igwaho hafi yacu.
Okay, now the laughter just left. So he said while they were talking to that little girl who was exposing her parents, there was one of the Hutu people that were there. He had a grenade, and he looked at the soldier, the RPF soldier, who had escorted Mr. Alexandre, and he's like, you will not lead us. You will not lead us in this country. So he threw a grenade on the side of where Mr. Kabanda was.
Ikibabaje nuko yafashe uwo musirikare Kabanda mbona mu ngofero harimo haravamo amaraso hanyuma nako kandi gafata ku kaboko hano jewe ntabwo yigeze mfataho na bukeya ntigeze mfata.
Wait a minute. Byabaye hehe?
Aho nari ngiye aho nari ntuye aho ngaho nyuma genocide ihagaritswe je ngiye kureba nakabanda aho nari ntuye. Bateye grenade nyuma intera hamwe yari umusirikare wa wundi.
I have a question. Because I have an uncle whose name was Kabanda, who yari mugotanyi baramwica. So is it him?
Oh, no, it was not him. It is Kabanda from Butare. Mon ami Ndashimiye reconnaît.
Oh, okay.
Comme il était de chez nous. D'ailleurs, on avait des relations. Il était mon cousin maternel, si je peux utiliser le terme. Il était mon cousin.
Okay,
cousin
sorry.
maternel.
Because I do have an uncle.
Kabanda Joseph, il s'appelait Kabanda Joseph l'autre. Lui aussi, il est mort après.
Okay.
Il est mort après. Je ne peux pas m'arrêter toujours sans vous dire l'histoire de monsieur Damascène, de quelqu'un qui était parmi les Hutus, mais qui a fait une action que je peux qualifier d'héroïsme.
So he said he cannot conclude his story of survival without mentioning a Hutu person called Damascene, who did a heroic movement, although he was Hutu.
igitekerezo cye kirimo ibintu bibiri turi buze kubonamo. Yahishe abana benshi abashyira muri plafo iwe, noneho abicanyi b'interahamwe abahutu bene bo baza kumubwira ngo wowe turakuzi ugira imbabazi ufite abantu urabakuramo, nutabakuramo turakwicana nabo.
This person, Mr. Damascene, has he hid a lot of Tutsi children in his room. In the ceiling, yeah, thank you. In the ceiling, and then the killers came to his house and they were like, you know what? We know that you are somebody that is a very merciful person, so you are hiding people in the inside.
Bakomeje kumubwira nabi. Akana umwana umwe mu yarahishe wari ufite imyaka 11 yitwa Bayikunde Theogene Bayikunde.
So as they were telling him that one of the children that he was hiding was 11 and his name was
yarapfuye. Bayikunde Theogene yarapfuye.
Bayikunde Theogene was 11 years old and that he was killed. So Bayikunde
yaramanutse ava muri plafo araza abwira abandi ati mwe mugumemo, abwira abicanyi ati nige wari uhari mwimwica nimunyice nta wundi wari urimo nigewe genyine. Aritanga abana bari kumwe muri plafo babaho na wa muntu wabahishe ntibamwica, we baramwica.
So the 11-year-old child decided to give himself away by going down the roof and telling the killers, I'm the only one he put in the ceiling. Just kill me and don't kill him. So this 11-year-old, his name is Theogene
Bayikunde
Theogene, was a hero because he protected the other kids by giving himself and also by protecting the person who protected him before.
Hari abarokotsemo bari kumwe muri plafo n'uwo mugabo wari ubahishe nawe ararokoka umwana baramwica.
So the Damascene was survived, and the other children that were in the roof in the ceiling also survived, but the 11-year-old boy actually was killed.
Reka rero nsoreza aha ngaha mbabwira ko mu gitabo bazasangamo ukuntu nagize umutima mubi nshaka kwihorera jewe numva ari devoir d'ailleurs numvaga ari obligation, ariko mama umba hafi cyane jewe namwambuye urupfu ndamugira muri jewe, angira inama nyinshi zo kutihorera, ambwira ati ntabwo ukwiye kubikora, kandi koko ntabwo nzihorera, sinanihoreye sinzabikora kubera inama ya mama numvira, kubera ko nzi ko Imana ifite gahunda nziza kuri jewe, sinakosoza ikibi kindi nkuko yabimbwiye. Mu gitabo muzabisangamo. Ndabashimiye cyane.
So thank you. So he concluded by saying that in the book he actually mentioned that there was a time he wanted to revenge. He wanted to avenge the people that were killed. He wanted to fight back, but he remembered the word that his mother said about that vengeance is not our job to do. As children of God, we are not called to revenge, but we are called to let God avenge us. So he made a decision to no longer have that bitterness towards the people that killed his loved one, but to give it to God and forgive them.
cyane ko dufite n'ubuyobozi bwiza butaduha uburenganzira bwo kugira budufasha cyane butwitaho.
And also the fact that we have a good leadership that promotes forgiveness and peace and unity. It also helped him to heal and forgive the people that took away his loved ones. So he's thanking. So Mr. Das, parting shot kubera twageze amasaha abiri ni hafi amasaha atatagiye kutugeraho. So parting shot mufite conclusion mushobora gutanga namwe.
Yego. Merci beaucoup, merci Alexandre et merci Aline, parce que cette occasion que vous donnez aux rescapés, c'est une sorte aussi de thérapie. Vous voyez, même s'il a parlé longuement, mais il faut comprendre que c'est une sorte de thérapie, c'est une occasion pour lui euh, de faire sortir tout, tout ce qui est à l'intérieur de
D'exprimer
lui.
ma douleur et ma peine, hein, s'il vous
Oui, oui,
plaît.
oui, d'exprimer exprimer ta douleur, mais c'est une sorte de thérapie. Hein, ça continue à te guérir. Alors, vous comprenez que votre mission, Aline, vraiment, c'est une mission venue de Dieu. Hein, parce que vous donnez cette occasion, les rescapés ont besoin de, de ce moment pour exprimer ce qu'ils ont vécu. Et vous savez, beaucoup ne savaient pas l'histoire d'Alexandre. Hein. Hein. Il gardait chez lui,
Ça
à
en moi.
l'intérieur, oui, en lui, et personne ne savait pas. Moi, j'ai lu tout le manuscrit, et, et puis j'avais vraiment, c'était très poignant. Et vous pensez, quelqu'un qui garde ça à l'intérieur de lui. Alors, vraiment, cette occasion que vous nous avez donnée de, de faire sortir ce que nous avons vécu, c'est vraiment c'est une mission. Il faut le savoir que Dieu vous a donné une mission et que c'est la réalisation de cette mission. Et puis, comme il vient de conclure, l'important, c'est de chasser la haine. Voilà qu'il a pensé à faire la vengeance. Mais comme il est croyant, il a dit qu'il faut, il faut combattre le mal par le bien. C'est très, très important. Et puis, vous nous avez donné l'exemple, Aline, avec votre témoignage. Vous aussi, vous combattez le mal par le bien. C'est ça, c'est l'héritage que nous devons laisser. Et c'est notre enseignement même, c'est notre message au monde. Il faut toujours combattre le mal par le bien. C'est ça, c'est ça notre mission. Et puis, c'est la volonté de notre Créateur. Ça, c'est très important pour, pour vraiment, disons, pour avoir la paix dans ce monde et puis pour vivre, pour recevoir la vie éternelle. Merci beaucoup.
So Mr. Omesasis started by saying that he thanked me for this initiative that I gave genocide survivors to come to this platform to share their story and pour out their hearts and because it's therapeutic. It may be 2 hours and 41 minutes, but let me tell you, you cannot talk about when you are in it. It takes a long time to heal, and the more you talk, the more you heal, the more that pain just it doesn't go away. I won't say it will go away, but it gets more bearable every day. The more you talk about it, the more it gets more bearable every day. As a genocide survivor, I don't think you get over it. I don't believe that. Anybody who would tell you that, oh, just get over it, it's been 27 years, they've never lived it. It's something that you take it to the grave. Like you just learn to live with it. You just learn to take it and turn it into a purpose. So instead of hating them, instead of being bitter, you just take it and you encourage people to know that there is hope. And that is why he said that it's a great calling that God has given me, because God gave me this assignment to help people, to help genocide survivors to find a place to share their story and heal, to find a place to share their story so that they can empower other people. Because right now, I have people that are watching us from all over the world. So it's going to help not only Mr. Alexandre to heal, but also anybody. It doesn't matter what circumstance. It doesn't. They don't have to go through the genocide to face pain or to lose a loved one. To know that there is hope. There is a sense of hope. There is hope outside of that of the pain. Today, Mr. Alexandre, he is married. He has 4 children. Uh, you can't replace the people he lost in the genocide. Nobody can be replaceable. But God gave him at least like a glimpse of that hope. You know, I lost my parents, God did not replace my parents, but God gave me people that I can look up to as parents. God gave me somebody to love. You know, I'm praying that God will give me children to be able to be a mother, also to care, to build a family. So it's not like we forget what happened, but we get to live. We get to and thrive, but we cannot thrive if we don't talk about what we've been through. We cannot thrive if we don't talk about the pain that we've been through. So that's what he's saying, that it's important to share the story, and this is a platform that is gonna help people share the story. And I wanna reiterate with that. If you would like to share your story, you can send us this a summary in French or in English, or even a short video. If you cannot write a summary, of if you feel like a whole page is not enough, send us a video about yourself. Email us a video, and we would love to hear your story. Let me tell you this: you don't need to have a book to have a story. You don't need to have started a book or have started something to, like, we want to hear your story. Like Mr. Alexandre, many people did not even know him, that his story. Nobody knew about his story. He carried it for so many years, not only 27 years. Actually, he carried it since 1961, 1962, from the time he was born, because he was born without a father.
Yeah.
The father was alive, but the father was not allowed to be with him. So he has a story that he carried from the time he was conceived in his mother's womb. He was in turmoil. So I just wanted to thank you both, and invite every genocide survivor, whether you are, if you don't feel comfortable in English and French, muzaze muvuge ikinyarwanda. Nzagerageza nshaka umuntu uzatraduisa, kubera ni ukuri ntabwo nababesha. I'm not healed. So there are triggers that just come. So muzaze tuzashaka umuntu uzatraduisa, ufite ingufu na strength yo kutraduisa atari iyanjye, ariko muzaze twumve, tupartage histoire yanyu, tubafate ku
C'est
mugongo.
pas votre faute, Aline, c'est la faute de l'histoire. Moi, j'impute la faute à notre histoire. C'est pas votre
Absolument,
faute.
absolument. Nibyo. So yeah, so nifuza nukuri, it's an open place. You don't need a script or a manuscript, or yes, nibyo Mr. Alexander afite manuscript, Mr. afite ibitabo yasohoye, ariko ntabwo bivuze ko twese tugomba kwandika gutangira kuvuga oya. Buri muntu wese waciye muri jenoside, buri muntu wese, kandi nta nubwo ndimo kuvuga gusa abarokotse jenoside, unazi n'abantu badinayinga ushaka gutanga ubuhamya bwawe on the other side. Let me tell you this, ngewe ndababwisha ukuri, ntabwo my goal is not to bring a platform to say the Hutus were bad or the Tutsis were bad. Because my mother was Hutu. So if we have to say the truth, I'm not 100% Tutsi. If we have to talk about Tutsis and Hutus, but I'm Rwandan. I am so proud to say that I am growing, and we are in a generation where it's not about Rwanda, Hutu or Tutsis. I am Rwandan. So whichever you are, if you want to share your story, whether you were born by people that did the genocide, or you were born, me, I lived with people. I lived with the person who killed my father for 3 years. So uko biriho kose ntabwo nababesha, ahangaha harafunguye. Uri umu genocide survivor, uri umuntu wakuzwe n'abantu bishe, uze tuganire. There's no condemnation, there's no judgment. The truth shall set us free. The only thing I'm praying and I'm sharing is to encourage people to speak the truth. is to encourage people
Little
to
God.
say the truth, because that's what is going to set us free.
D'accord. Euh, c'est vraiment, c'est vraiment, comme je dis, c'est une mission que vous avez reçue.
De
Une
Dieu,
mission
il faut ajouter ça, de Dieu.
oui, venue de Dieu, venue d'en haut.
Oui, oui, oui.
Vraiment, c'est
Niman.
N'Imana,
Nimana.
Cupido,
Mais
So,
Imana
wasohoye
so
imodoka,
kandi,
Cupido usohora imodoka.
et
no,
vous allez, et vous, oui, vous avez fini, Aline? Vous avez,
yes, I was gonna
ok,
say,
ok.
Mr. Business, you can actually pray for us.
Oui, oui. Non, c'est la prière maintenant.
Yes,
Ok, ok.
la prière, yeah.
Euh, Dieu notre Père, Dieu notre Créateur, vous qui nous a donné son moment très très précieux, nous vous demandons de continuer à nous aider à combattre le mal par le bien comme l'auteur Aline Moutoni a fait et il est en train de nous montrer comment nous devons faire avec cette approche qui est très très importante pour nous et pour les autres, qui nous enseigne de combattre le mal par le bien. Et ces histoires notre histoire, l'histoire des Rwandais qui est très très poignante, on espère qu'elle va finir et on va utiliser la vérité pour combattre le mensonge, parce que le mensonge vient du diable. Aidez-nous à continuer à dire la vérité et que les autres Rwandais aussi accueillent cette vérité pour avoir un pays de paix, pour léguer à nos enfants et un pays où règne la paix. Merci Dieu, nous vous demandons cette force pour continuer notre mission et, et pour continuer à aider les autres. Nous demandons aussi la force pour notre auteur, Aline Moutoni, en fait que Dieu la protège, pour, en fait qu'il continue à nous aider et à aider beaucoup de Rwandais. Merci, mon Dieu. Merci, merci, merci.
Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, everybody. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Alexandre. Merci, Monsieur Onistas. We look forward for the book. The book is in process of being finished. We want to make sure that the work is great and it can be translated, because we want to make sure that we translate all the three languages by the time it's released. So be patient, and it will come out. But please be patient and pray for Mr. Alexandre and Mr. Omistas as they continue to read the manuscript and add the things. It's a trigger. Like the more you read your story, it's triggering. So please pray for them as they do that. And thank you again for joining us. And Monsieur Sébastien, merci beaucoup pour cet entretien si émouvant. Yes, it was an amazing. It was very moving. I cried, I laughed, and now I want to sleep because I have a headache. So yes, but it was good. It was really good. So yeah, so have an amazing evening for you. For me, it's not evening. For me, it's afternoon. So have an amazing evening. Imana ibahumugisha. Abifuza kudukurikira. Tuza yes. Tufite abandi bantu tuza interviewinga, and we have crazy stories. It gets crazier. It gets crazier and crazier. So yeah, Monsieur Sebastien said he's your friend. Monsieur Sebastien is Mr. Alexandre's friend. So yeah. So thank you and God bless you. Bye.